less Western and more African. I don't know what being more African looks like, but I know what that being more Western can be a better solution for Africa, like embracing free market, embracing capitalism, embracing meritocracy instead of the nepotism that we have in Africa prevalent and the corruption we have. And I also believe that if we will be honest about ourselves as African and also honest about how we talk about Islam in Africa, it will also help us greatly, especially to reduce the level of violence we have in North Africa and in West Africa. So yeah, that's kind of my belief. I started talking about Islam like last year. Prior to that, I spoke about other things. But last year, what made me start talking about it was essentially what happened on October 7th. And I felt when I saw the reaction in the West, I was like, this is because usually I used to look to the West like, don't worry, Africa will fix our problem as long as we look to the West and we see a good example. And then I looked to the West and I was like, there is no good example here. Definitely no good example. I was like, no, I have to say something. And I even found myself in a position where I have to give Westerners an example of what they are dealing with because I've seen it here in Africa. And I'm like, okay, let me give you examples of these things here from what we see here. So that's kind of like where I'm coming from. And
At the core of the problem is a liberal issue. Like the laws and the system are liberal, right? They're based on the ideas of liberalism, and you can't exclude people over there just on the basis of their immutable characteristics or their religion and stuff. That's where all the human rights laws are based upon, right? But so it's very easy for someone to manipulate people like that and abuse the system. So then you have a religion that's come in that prides itself on lying, that prides itself on deceiving others and taking advantage, and that's the problem. That's why I think like the only solution, reasons why I was saying before, like why I've been leaning on Christianity, is because I don't see any other way of defeating this, because it's not a logical enemy, right? It's not a logical, reasonable enemy. It's not an enemy that plays fair as well, right?
yeah,
It is a
they don't
deceitful,
fight fair at all.
lying, corrupt, right? Because
Corrupt,
they're at the
inconsistent,
it's bad coding
hypocritical.
problem, right? Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the World of Momos podcast. And today on Reflections and Reactions, we have two special guests for you, Frank Stephen and Antar Yasha. And what we'll be discussing today is the Islamization that is going on in the whole world, the negative effects of it, and in general, what are the issues that are created by it on different continents as well, not just the Western sphere. But before we do that, we're going to start off with giving a brief introduction of ourselves, who we are and stuff, for people who might not know, as we all have different platforms, our own channels. So it's crisscrossing over there, and Antar is dropping something right now. All good. Okay, so we'll start off with Frank.
Hi, my name is Frank Steven from Nigeria, born and bred. People are often thinking that I've left the country at one point. I've not. I've never left the four walls of the borders of this country, Nigeria. And yeah, that's basically everything about me. And also the fact that ideologically I'm a Christian. Yeah, I believe I do not buy many of the Western narrative about Africa, particularly the fact that the problem that we are facing in Africa is the aftermath of white European colonialism or stuff like that. I believe that most of our problems are due to we are the creators, the originators of most of our problems, and also Islam has a huge negative impact on the African society, especially when you consider North and West Africa, and even some part of Central Africa. That is the belief that I hold, and I believe that the way forward is if we, many people believe that the way forward for Africa is to become less Western and more African. I don't know what being more African looks like, but I know that being more Western can be a better solution for Africa, like embracing free market, embracing capitalism, embracing meritocracy instead of the nepotism that we have in Africa prevalent and the corruption we have. And I also believe that if we will be honest about ourselves as African and also honest about how we talk about Islam in Africa, it will also help us greatly, especially to reduce the level of violence we have in North Africa and in West Africa. So yeah, that's kind of my belief. I started talking about Islam like last year. Prior to that, I spoke about other things. But last year, what made me start talking about it was essentially what happened on October 7th. And I felt when I saw the reaction in the West, I was like, this is because usually I used to look to the West like, don't worry, Africa will fix our problem as long as we look to the West and we see a good example. And then
Mm.
I looked to the West and I was like, there is no good example here. Definitely no good example. I was like, no, I have to say something. And I have to. I even found myself in a position where I have to give Westerners an example of what they are dealing with because I've seen
Mm.
it here in Africa. And I'm like, okay, let me give you examples of these things here from what we see here. So that's kind of like where I'm coming from and basically what you should know about me.
Go, Hunter. Go on.
Uh, well, I've been on your channel
Yeah,
many
it's so
times,
many
many
times,
times.
so many times.
Your
I've
your
been trying to
viewers
get rid of
probably
him, but he comes
know
back.
me, but I'm a Finnish ex-Muslim journalist. I am of Kurdish descent. I came in Finland in 1996, so it's been a while. Basically, I'm a Finnish person, but I have Kurdish roots, and I'm an ex-Muslim and stuff like that. Nothing very complicated. People know me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People know him, people know his work that's been going on, and obviously I'll be linking everything of everyone everywhere so you guys can check in the description. About myself, I mean, this is for Frank mostly, like people on my channel should know about me. Otherwise, what the hell are they doing over here?
I'm the
So
only one who
basically,
doesn't know.
I've been watching Frank's videos for a while now on YouTube,
Yeah,
and I'm like a huge fan. And I was to mom
Oh,
was like,
thank you.
we have to
Thank you.
we have to
yeah,
get this guy on the podcast. This
yeah.
guy is a freaking
Because
genius.
I was checking your stuff as well because on YouTube Shorts, because you're the king of YouTube Shorts on that 1 minute explainers, like it's really good.
Yeah, so
Because
freaking
Thank
good.
you.
I end up like
yeah,
laughing every time. Like
yeah,
this
I know.
guy's like on point.
Yeah, yeah. And I've been saying this because I agree with that point. But before I go over there, I'll just tell about myself. Right. So I'm Momas, and I was born in Kuwait, in the Middle East. My parents are from Pakistan. Born a Muslim, then left Islam when I went to live in Pakistan for 10 years. That was an eye opener moment for me. And that was the time actually when I became more and more British while I was in Pakistan.
You're like,
even
what
though
is this?
even though I had no British roots, right? So, but I always loved Britain, like since I was a kid. And when I was in Pakistan and they were bitching about like all the time, like, oh, but they colonized us, blah blah blah. I was like, good for them, like I like Britain. They should have never stopped. But so yeah, so I became an ex-Muslim not because I had to, sort of a thing. I went in on a theological self journey, and I found the religion to be evil at its core, because of the narrative of the false prophet and what he sort of propagated from there. And during time, I started becoming more and more Christian, in that sense. In the cultural sense, I was always like akin to cultural Christianity. And but my wife is from Poland and she's Catholic. She doesn't believe in that much in Christianity anymore, but like obviously the traditions carry on. And I think so, like theologically, I would, at this moment, like I was always been an agnostic. I left being an atheist as well a while back because I just didn't feel like it was my thing. uh, I think so at the moment, theologically, I would explain myself as a Christian deist that believes in the Christian wisdom, but not in the fact of it being the fact, the stories in there. But it's somewhere in between over there, but I'm just like exploring that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're the Richard Dawkins kind of Christian, cultural Christian.
More than him, I would be more than him, right? Because I've never bashed Christianity.
Okay.
This is the now our part is over anyway, so we'll get into this discussion. I've never bashed Christianity because I don't think so. It's a good idea. trying to knock the foundations of your own civilization, on which your civilization is built upon. Now you can talk about adapting or updating it, or like updating points of views, which Christianity has done over the years anyways itself, right? But
Mm-hmm.
completely trying to take it off is weird. And this also something I wanted to talk to you about it, like when people compare Christianity with Islam. Oh, but Christianity was like that in the past. It just boils, like it just seriously boils my piss, because
Even
it's
for me,
not the same.
I even find it weird when people compare like Christianity with, let's say, compare Christianity with Islam. The first thing you need to know is that in different, let's say, continents, there are different versions of Christianity or how it manifests itself in society. What
Hmm.
happened in Ethiopia is not the same thing that happened in Europe, right?
Hmm.
The form of Christianity you have in those places is not the same form you have. As a Nigerian, I have never witnessed violent Christianity. Never, ever. It
Hmm.
is like when you tell the average Nigerian, do you know Christianity used to be violent? They'll be like, really? Are you serious?
Yeah.
They've never seen violent Christianity ever. It is a
Yeah.
foreign concept to us. So when you want to compare Christianity socially, because
Hmm.
theologically is something, but social, like when you look at the social implications of Christianity, it depends on where you are looking at. But when it comes to Islam, there's this consistent, and the social outcome, there's this consistency of violence, of terrorism, of subjugating religious minorities. It is constant. It is a constant.
But
Has
they
always
own
been
as
there.
well. They own as well. Like they're always violent. Even to their own people, they are violent. Like wherever
Exactly.
it is,
One of the
it's
people don't know this
nothing.
about Boko Haram, for example, in Nigeria, that the major victims, the number one victims of Boko Haram are other Muslims, not even Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most of the women that you hear they kidnap are Muslim women, oddly
Yeah.
enough. So,
I mean, the same thing I saw in Pakistan as well, like played out over and over again. All these like terrorist stuff. Like I remember, I was telling this to Antar. There was this KFC we had in our city, right in Karachi. A very
mm,
big KFC. It was like 3 stories, and like everyone loved it. It was one of the first ones that was there, or whatever. Every time they, and it was owned by a Muslim owner, like very profitable, and what. Every time there was riots, that KFC was the first one to burn down,
mm,
no matter what. No matter what the riots were, right? No matter, like halal food over there, and KFC is the one who adopted halal food the first, like chain as well in UK as well. They're selling halal food, KFC, right?
mm-hmm,
Every time they burned that down. Every year it burned it down. Once there was a case when there was a Shia mosque
mm,
that was attacked by Sunnis and stuff, and they
mm-hmm.
burned down that KFC as a protest. It's like, what does that KFC have to do?
I believe they have a couple of chicken bones to pick with the KFC.
But
Otherwise, they would eat there. Every other day they eat there.
yeah, but it's like um it's kind of like it helps stupidity to stay in a society. It wants people to be uneducated. It wants Christianity tries to educate people, whatever.
Yeah,
And
very true.
it's very important what you said. According to each region is different, right? Because the American evangelists are annoying because they're like grifter
Even me
Christianity,
too don't
right?
like them. Like
Yeah.
when it comes to American evangelicals, maybe not all of them do. When I see what
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
do online, I'm like, this is not the Christianity I know. Some of the things you guys
No.
talk about, like, this is weird. This is so weird. I'm not used to this. If this is what I saw, if this is what I have known as Christians to be, I will be an atheist by now. Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, this is bad. I'm like, this is bad. The way you talk about this, and this is not what I know, and this is not what I've
Yeah.
read in my Bible ever.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like Christianity in Nigeria, of course, it came through. We became Christian thanks to colonialism, right? But before colonialism helped Christianity spread in Nigeria. But before uh, colonial powers took over the region, we had Christian missionaries in
Hmm.
Nigeria. Many of them were former slaves who moved to Nigeria to kind of bring the gospel to their people, stuff like that. And when they came to Nigeria, there was prevalent, like the presence of Christian missionaries was heavy in the south, right? And then they were advancing towards the north. And the
Hmm.
colonial authorities didn't like the fact that missionaries in the north were making the Muslims uncomfortable. And they stopped it.
Yeah.
They said missionaries should not come to the north. And that's why in Nigeria you have most of the south, they're Christians, and most of the north till they remain Muslim. So that's kind of like the and with Christianity came education, because they wanted you to read the Bible. They also wanted you to be able to teach yourselves. They also wanted
Mm.
you to be able to function well in society. Christianity came with medicine, modern medicine. They built hospitals, they built schools, they built infrastructure, they educated and employed people. Meanwhile, in the north, all they have is Muslim schools where you learn how to recite the Quran, and that is
Without
all.
understanding it.
Yeah, and there was something that happened recently that was so weird to me. I made a video talking about I don't know if you've seen the video that I made. It's a short about Al-Majiri schools. It's like the northern Nigerian version of uh,
Madrasas.
yeah, yes, it's kind of
Yeah.
like that. And these poor children, that's the only education they get. So I was
Mm.
criticizing it and talking about how this has become like a pipeline for Islamic terrorism, because these children,
Mm.
the only thing they know how to do is recite the Quran. They cannot function properly in a modern society, and from there they become their option is just to become like handy workers, artisans and terrorists. That's like their three options. So
Yeah.
I was talking about this. Although of course my usual tone is usually sarcasm, and kind of as if I'm trying to taunt the Muslims.
Mm.
And then a Muslim was responding to the video I made, and his response was so stupid. I was like, Jesus Christ.
You
What
can't
was his
argue with stupid, man.
What was his response? He said that I woke up this morning and I decided that this is what I decided to be angry about. I'm like, okay, first of all, are you saying this is not an issue to be angry about? You're a Muslim, and this is a Muslim in the West. I don't know, maybe in Europe or in America.
It's
As
everywhere
a
the
Muslim
same.
in Europe or America, you have Western education, you have skills, you can function perfectly in a modern society. And you look at Muslims in Africa who have none of that, and you see somebody pointing it out, and your response is, "Oh, this guy is just angry that we are." This is what he said, that I'm angry with the fact that Muslims are more devoted. I'm like, is this what you call
Yeah.
devotion? Is this your
Oh
definition of
God.
devotion? This is a very destructive. This is the funny thing, and this is one of the things I've noticed about Muslims in the West and Muslims in Africa. Muslims in Africa see these things and they're like, this is bad. But then
Mm.
Muslims in the West are like, nah, this is great. This shows that the Ummah is strong. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no Muslim, even Muslims in Africa, in Nigeria, don't say this nonsense you're saying. How will you say something like that? Like they see it as a problem. They see these schools as a problem. They see the fact that Western education cannot penetrate northern Nigeria today. It's a problem. Even elite Muslims in northern Nigeria see it as their leaders, see it as a problem. Their emirs, their religious leaders see it as a problem. You in the West, you're like, I'm the smart guy. I am looking at that and I'm like, yeah, the Ummah is strong. No, it is not strong. This is if you want to defeat, let's say, the Christian nation, you think this is what is going to help you defeat it. This cannot learn how to create weapons that can destroy any country. It cannot learn how to be technologically advanced to defeat any country. I know you people brag about breeding like rats, but if it is by population, then Japan should have won the Second World War. This is this is not how you do. If your plan is even to take over, let's say your plan is to take over the world, is this how you would do it?
No,
And then
but they're
somebody
not. I don't think they're relying on Muslims actually doing it. They're relying on their dhimmis doing it, their slaves doing it. They will be the lords sitting on the chair, and everybody else will be doing everything for them. And I don't know how they will achieve it, but that is
so
the goal.
their plans, the way they plan to take over the world. And that's why even when people tell me, "Are you not afraid that Muslims will take over the world?" I'm like, no, these people are so stupid. If for them to think they can, these people are stupid. If they take over the world, it will be an Islamic miracle, a huge one. No,
Yeah,
these people
but they
can't.
will only take over for a day, and then they'll start
And
fighting
then
in between,
yes,
anyways.
yes,
But you know what the problem is, that with them, the problem is that you can't argue with stupid. You just can't.
exactly.
Like I had that for 10 years in Pakistan, and it was so stupid. Like I physically felt my IQ levels dropping being in that country. Day by day I was like, I can't deal with this. I'm talking to you, I'm criticizing something in Pakistan or something. Oh, there's a lot of sexual exploitations and stuff like that, and someone will come, yeah, but we have nuclear bomb. Now, what does that have to do with anything? No, what are you talking about?
What does that to do with the fact that you're exploiting women? You know, it's so
Yeah,
so
it's just
ridiculous.
like they can't argue the point, because they know. And the point of madrasa, I think so, that needs to be talked about a lot more if it's happening in Nigeria more and more, because this is exactly what happened in Pakistan wasn't always like that. Pakistan
Mm,
had like 30, 35 madrasas when the partition happened from India. right? In the 1970s, today there are 30,000 madrasas, right? In the 1970s is when the Islamization happened of Pakistan, and after which the more and more madrasas start getting built, being sponsored by Iran for Shias and Saudi Arabia for Sunnis, right? And what happens in these madrasas, like you were saying, I've seen it. I knew a friend who came out of that madrasa, and he had to work so hard to be educated himself so that he could go to the same uni that I went into, right?
I don't even think they
And
teach them anything, any useful skill or
no,
anything.
they are, and you know what? Like they will only teach them from the perspective of Islam as well. Even if in our madrasas over there, they were teaching them like maths and other
Oh,
things as
great.
well. But obviously, up to a point, right? 'Cause maths they were teaching because, oh, so like, didn't you know the numbers were from Muslims and blah blah
Have you
blah.
seen the Palestinian school books? Like, how many Jews do you stab today? Like, 3 + 5 Jews equal 8 stabbed Jews.
Yeah. But you know what I will say though, like in the madrasas in Pakistan, you didn't have that, right? Because the people in like Palestine people need to understand this. Most of the Arabs hate them, right? They are the rejects of that region, and wherever they go, they cause trouble, and they are like they are the beggars of the Middle East as well. All they want, like, it's when you see the videos, right, when they're saying, oh, this aid food is not good enough for me and stuff like that. That is their attitude, because they have entitlement, because they say like, oh, we are fighting your war against the Jews and stuff, so we shouldn't have to work. But like, going to that point of the madrasas, like the madrasas that were in Pakistan, the problem is that as well, that there are so many languages within the country, right? So, and public schools are like in Urdu, they teach in national language, um, but there aren't enough schools. So the only way that they can learn anything is by going to the madrasa. That's how they capture the poor class, and that's why they want to keep the class poor. And the literacy rate is very low in Pakistan. In the literacy, being able to read and write your name, like, is, I think so, it's under 20% or 30% of the country knows how to read or write their name, right? So it's, that's how they capture you. But they try, so the madrasas for them actually make them a little more educated. Even in Pakistan, they started, like, I think so, in Karachi they started madrasas where they were giving business studies, right? So these madrasas are not just for kids, they have educated into college level now, and like advanced over there.
The
But
ones,
the
the ones
problem
in,
is, like, it's so indoctrinated within the Islamic point of view, so they will not teach evolution, because they will declare that evolution is wrong. And they will put things like that blocks the knowledge, and they will tell you, like, don't start, like, learn Western education, because they will make you a kafir, you know. But this is the point where I wanted to bring Antar into it. Have you seen that within Finland? Because there's so much Islamization going around over there, has have they started building madrasas yet? Basically, that's what I want to ask.
Oh yeah, we have hundreds of like madrasas and stuff like that, but education is mandatory. Like I don't think they can deny kids education in here, because you'll have police on your door dragging the kid to the school. That's not possible over here. But nah, I don't think that's possible. But I've seen the penetration of Islam into the school space. Like they will tolerate hijabs, they will tolerate
Hmm.
Islamic symbolism and everything like that. And before Islam came into the country, they were very they didn't
Hmm.
agree with Christianity. They were very like pushing it away from schools. They were removing crosses from schools, and they were denying church presence and everything like that. But suddenly, when Islam came, it became like trendy to bring religion into school. It became trendy to pray and stuff like that, and it's very worrisome that religion is penetrating into the secular academic spaces, and it shouldn't. It should stay away. Unlike you guys, I'm a very militant atheist, and I don't want to see religion in, for example, like overly religious things, for example, in public spaces, schools, academy, universities, and these should be places of education, and religions should stay in the spaces of religion, in the churches and stuff like that, and that's how a secular country should work. But it's worrisome that Europe, especially like Finland and Sweden, and they've just given up of their secular ideals when it comes to Islam. They'll just accept
I
anything.
mean, that to a degree, I do agree with that. To keep religion out of those spheres, because the religion has to come from the personal, right? And then, because it's not about it being enforced. You need to, even with Christianity, you need to have that pull to go to Jesus, to go to Christ, rather than you being forced onto over there. And if you have that pull and you like the ideas and stuff like that, then that's good. But it should be sort of, unless it is a Catholic school, then you should expect that, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
have you seen the I like have you seen any indication that they that they might be asking for their Muslim Islamic Education Board or something to be accepted as a Finnish alternative to the Finnish Education Board, so that they can make their own schools,
Oh,
because that's
we
the
are not
moves
at
that
that
happen in
point yet.
Pakistan.
We're not at that point yet.
But do you see,
We're,
like, it will happen the more that
it
they
will,
are?
because it's been happening in the UK.
Yeah, that's
So
why
it
I'm
will
asking. Like, yeah,
eventually happen in Sweden and
yeah.
Finland and stuff like that. But we still have a road to go. But I really want to talk about like Frank's YouTube channel, which is like,
Hmm.
when I first saw Frank, I was like, what the hell is going on? This guy is a very punctual. I've never seen like a Nigerian guy destroying something on the internet that bad. Like shitting on people, but so punctually. And then I was looking at the comments, and people were like, "This Nigerian man is speaking the truth." And I was starting following, and since then I've been like a crazy huge fan, like looking at every short you post, commenting on every short you post. And I was to mom was like, if we don't get this guy in the podcast, and why the hell does this guy only have 600 Twitter followers? Like how? Why the hell does this guy only have
I
600?
think I think so. It's because Frank is not on Twitter as much, only recently or something that you've come on,
Oh
and
yeah, I've noticed he's
you know,
only recently started to activate on bit.
yeah.
But please, Frank, tell me more about like how you ended on YouTube, and what's your process, and how you like find the topics, because I notice you find topics and you do very fast. Your production is very fast on that topic.
And breakdowns are very like on point, tup, 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 and there's like, yeah, I really like that part. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Even I noticed that will I say, is a talent that I discovered that I had, as the ability to say something funny and make a quick point as quickly as
Mm.
possible. It's something that I discovered that is a talent I had to make shots and make. I like my videos being short. Like that's kind of like,
Mm.
even when I make longer videos, I like them quick, 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 quick. Because there are people who stretch out their videos, and usually when I watch videos on YouTube, no matter how, except I'm watching shorts, I watch them at 1.5 speed. So I like the videos quick. So I had this
Yeah.
idea of, I like this idea of say it to me quickly, say it to me quickly. Don't wait, make the point
Bullet
quickly.
points.
Exactly, make the point quickly. So I that was kind of like the approach I had towards making shorts on YouTube. But what made me decide to make videos on YouTube was, before even YouTube, I was not really a social media person. That's why if you go
Mm.
through social media, you will not see me posting on Instagram, or you see me doing
Yeah.
any of those. I was pretty much a very private person. Even when I was on social media, it was just to watch. And I was watching so many things, and I was like, anytime I watch a particular video or people responding to a particular news article or stuff like that, I'll be like, I have something to say about this, or there's something I think these people are not saying. And usually, where you go to say all these things is in the comments. And like, if you really have something to say, if you really have something that is really pressing, and you think people need to add this perspective to the conversation, why don't you start your own YouTube channel and say it? Kind
Mm.
of. That was what made me decide. And I even tell people when
You're
they are
like, I
angry
might
with
as
me.
well.
I also tell people when they are angry with me, they say, "Why are you not covering this?" I'm like, YouTube is free. You can you can start
Yeah.
making your own videos. So that was kind of like how I started it. And I started off just like addressing the whole LGBTQIA plus woke black racism,
Mm.
point of view, and also try to dismantle this idea of race wars that's kind of happening. Even they try to import it here too. Makes there are many Nigerians who believe the same thing. So, oh,
Yeah.
our problem is the white man and stuff like that. I was trying to dispel with that, and also the whole, like I said, 2X LGBTQIA plus issues, like Justin Trudeau will call it. So from there, I also noticed the whole manosphere conversation about how a woman should act, and I thought the whole thing was stupid. So I was like, okay, let me also talk about that. So I had as in a broad range of topics that I covered, and then
I've seen
when I
you rip
started,
on Andrew Tate a lot, right? Like I've
yes,
seen
I
a
really
lot of
don't.
videos of you ripping on Andrew Tate.
I really think the
That's
whole
the sphere.
I really think the whole red pill community nonsense, I really think is ridiculous. I think those people,
Yeah.
their view on women is bad. Is
Mm.
He had a Twitter post recently saying that kissing women is gay.
Yeah,
mm,
because
you
they
know,
might have kissed someone or they might have sucked on someone else's cause. Like, dude, you're just like, just
You
come out
realize
of the
every
closet.
hand you shake
Hard.
has touched the cock?
Yeah. Eating is gay. Eating with
handshakes
your
are
hands is
gay.
gay.
Handshakes are 100. You had it here first before Andrew Tate says it. We've said it here. Handshakes
Yeah.
are gay. Don't do that. It's bad. So that's the
I
kind of
do agree with the red pill space, like because the red pill space they were trying to portray themselves as Christians, but as people have found out that they have no idea about Christianity,
they have
they
no.
are
They,
just
they
like
tried.
they're
They
just
tried
the
to.
woke, the other woke side, like they're the puritanical side of those things. They're just grifters trying to make money. That's all they are.
Many of them, even
Money is their god.
when you confront them with, okay, but this is what the Bible said that runs contrary to the advice you give to men. Their response would be, well, the Bible did not think about modern society. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, but why are you appealing? Why are you
That-
appealing? It's fine if you have that view, but don't
yeah.
appeal to it whenever it suits you. And then when we say, okay, what about this? Oh, he didn't foreshadow modern society. Okay, then abandon it completely, please. Don't pick and choose. If you want to abandon it completely, stop appealing to religion because you feel somehow people are going to see you as the alternative to a non-religious society or a non-religious view of things when you're as non-religious as people you are criticizing. So these are kind of like the things I was pointing out. And then the first video I made about Islam was the video I made about it was funny enough. The first video I made about Islam was in response to the red pill community. That's the funny part. It was because Sneeko and what's the name of
Oh
this
yeah.
lady, Hannah Pearl Davis did this. They did this interview where they were talking about how they admire how Islam treats women, and I was like, "Wait, you said what?"
What? That guy has
Oh my
no idea.
god.
That Sneeko guy has no idea what he's
I
talking
mean
about.
that's admitting, like, if there was an actual court, that's admitting that you're a bad person.
Like,
I
either you're a
admire
bad
how they
person,
enslave women.
yeah, it's either you're a bad person or you're completely ignorant.
Yeah,
Completely ignorant.
yeah,
Like, what do you know that you are saying? There's so many things, especially from like someone summarized it like they said the right wing extremists are retarded and the left wing extremists are mentally ill. It's like
yeah,
both sides are just crazy. What are you guys talking
yeah,
about? This one sees Islam as freedom fighters, and this one sees Islam as I don't even know what they see them as they can form an alliance with Christians. We have no major dispute with Christians. I'm like, come to northern Nigeria. 10,000 Christians were killed last year in northern Nigeria by Muslims or Islamic extremists. Is that how
It's
you
crazy.
consider
I
us
think everybody
forming an
sees
alliance?
Islam something as they want to see,
Yeah,
you
they
know?
imagine Islam to be, especially in the West. That's where I see this imagination going on. They imagine Islam to be something that it is not.
yeah.
Completely
They see it as
opposite of what it
exotic,
is.
Frank. Like they see it as something exotic, or, the desert and that Arabic music playing, and oh, that woman covered her face. Oh, who is she? Who is she? I don't. That's what, because that's what the movies have told them, right?
There,
What
there's this
Islam is.
there's this thing I had Patrick Bet David say, and I think
Mm,
Barack Obama has said it before, where he said the most beautiful sound is the call to prayer.
Oh my
And
god, are you
I said
serious?
I grew up in Lagos, right? Every street in Lagos had a mosque. My house was opposite a mosque. I had that call to prayer every morning, and I can tell you, it is the most annoying thing
yeah, yeah,
I've ever had in my life. Even then, it wasn't because I hated Islam or anything. It's that by 6 o'clock and you're making that sound. You really don't
Yeah.
like me. Like you
It's
just
intrusion.
don't
It's
like.
an intrusion on you,
Yes,
and it's
because
not
I'm
a
trying
call
to have
for
a good
prayer.
morning sleep, and you're
Yeah,
trying to disturb me with your call. I don't want to pray. I don't.
yeah,
I don't even understand your prayer. Why do I have to hear this? And then people are like, "It's the most beautiful sound I've ever had." I'm like, "How long did you stay when you?" It's like you visited as a tourist. You had the sound, and you're like, "Wow, this is wonderful." Live
yeah,
there first. Live in that country for a year, and that
yeah,
wonderful sound will start sounding annoying to you, especially when one morning you just want to sleep, and then that
yeah.
wonderful sound is playing. Then we'll
And
see how
only
wonderful
like
it is.
also like if you live in a Islamic country, you can't play music when that you have to turn the music off or anything that you might be playing. I remember we were at this concert and stuff, at this gig in Pakistan,
Mm,
and we didn't realize it was the Maghrib prayer, the evening prayer, and
mm.
the band was still playing and stuff. And all of a sudden, we had like these 100, 200 crazy like jihadi like people like come, and they were trying to crash into the gig,
Contact.
into the concert, and they were saying, oh, you all are kafirs, you were not like, you're not praying, and you like playing music, blah blah blah, stuff like that. Everyone had to, we had to
Con-
block the gates because they were
mm,
there with sticks and whatnot. And we had women and we had girls and stuff. We had to smuggle them basically out from another door, and all of us had to run away from there.
mm.
I was like, this is
I
not a
mean,
call for prayer. There's no spirituality in there. There's not like, oh, can you come to prayer? No, what happens in Saudi Arabia if you don't go to prayer? The police beat you up. You have to
mm.
close your shops. You have to. This is a call to war. It's a
And
warrior cult.
everything about
Yeah,
it is just mandatory. You must.
yeah,
I really don't fancy it at all. Like I even wonder how Muslims find, especially the ones in the West, who define. If I see somebody in the Middle East or Northern Africa, I understand you are forced, you're in the system. I get it. But somebody in the West glorifying this whole thing, or even having like Muslim preachers advocating for it, I'm like, the way I look at Nigerian Muslims, the moment they leave this country and they find themselves in the West, they are so throwing their hijab. Like the ladies are so throwing the hijab. They are not going to,
yeah,
except maybe when they want to do a video call with their father, they will put it on. But you see people in the West, they are like, this is wonderful. The hijab is the best thing to happen to women. I'm like, you escaped this thing and you're still in, what happened to you? Like, what happened to you that you escaped this and you're acting like it was the best thing to ever happen to you, that you escaped it and you want the society where you are in to adopt it? I really don't, that's the one that really baffles me. Like,
yeah. We
you
were
live
talking
this.
about this with Antar about this phenomena that the Muslims in the West try to be more Muslims than the Muslims in the actual countries and stuff. And this is what like Pakistanis, I've seen them do as well. And actually, people in Pakistan make fun of them for doing this.
Mm.
That the educated people, the two or three educated people that are left in Pakistan, they make fun of these people. Right? They all live in just one house, probably my house, but but they make fun of these people, right? Because
Mm,
the, I think so. It's a sort of like they're stuck in two worlds. They're not accepting the West because they're coming for wrong reasons, right? They're not coming to the Western countries because they
mm,
love those particular countries, their traditions and their values and cultures. They don't want to be part of that. They are just going over there for economical gains. So
mm,
they go over there, try to economical gains and stuff, and then they're stuck, right?
mm,
These people won't accept them, they think.
mm,
And well, I have to sort of like go to my people, so I have to exhibit to my people that I'm more my people than them.
mm,
It's like, well, those people are not accepting you because probably you're being too strange for them. you know
mhm,
it's hard. Like, I won't be a friend with someone as well, or wouldn't want to be a friend with someone who was like in burqa and stuff like that, or holding, I don't know, like, I don't want to be friends with ninjas. If I wanted to be friend with ninjas, I'll go to Japan, but I think so is that sort of a thing that uh they are stuck in two worlds, and then they try to portray themselves too much. They as well don't know Islam properly. This is the problem.
True.
99% of the Muslims don't know about Islam. They like you said, like in madrasas, they're reading everything in Arabic or reciting the Quran and memorizing the Quran, but they don't know what the words are saying. They
Mm,
don't know what the ijmas are on each topic, what are the scholars have said. Because
mm,
I've had these arguments on Twitter a lot where people don't know who they're supposed to even give zakat to, and they're saying, oh, we can give zakat to non-Muslims. Like, you guys need to seriously learn about your own religion first.
Mm.
What is happening. So they also are trying to portray something and portray themselves as exotic in Western world, like to gain favor and
And
stuff.
yeah,
It's a
and I
lot of
think
misinformation.
they are becoming more Islamic than people who are even from Muslim countries. And it's weird to see for me. There's a post I made on Twitter. I said Western universities are producing more Islamists than Al-Majri schools in Nigeria. They are producing more terrorists. I mean, this is
Yeah.
troubling. This is really problematic, and I
Or in
really hope.
Finland, like as Antar would tell you, in Finland it's mental what's
Mm,
happening in
If
Finland.
you look at the statistics, we are the number one ISIS producing country in the world compared to
wow.
the Muslim population,
Mm,
which means that we have the most radical Muslim population in the world, in the
In
most
Finland,
progressive country
can you
in the
imagine?
world.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine?
This is crazy. This is absolute madness.
That is bad. That is really
and
bad.
yeah, that's why I always recently I've been leaning more on Christianity for this reason, because I don't see. The thing is, like, they are stupid. A lot of their followers are stupid, and it's like it's technically true, right? I'm not being derogatory. Just it's technically true. A lot of them do cousin marriages and stuff like that, and that
Mm.
does it does contribute to that part as well, right?
Yeah,
65% in Pakistan. Can you imagine?
mm,
65% in Pakistan cousin marriages.
'cause
Everywhere is over 50% in all of them, right?
wow.
Isn't it more in like the Pakistanis in Britain? Isn't it more?
Yeah, it's 75%. Pakistanis in Britain is 75% compared to Pakistan, for one
Can you
reason,
imagine?
because 95% of the Pakistanis are from a singular province
Mm,
in UK. A single province from Pakistan, they're in UK, and that province is the biggest problem within Pakistan, right?
mm,
They have the most sexual offenses, the most tribal
mm,
problems, the most, like they. I told under this before. There's a tribal sort of a thing over there that they have in one of the tribes,
mm,
that if you do something wrong to one tribe's person or whatever, they are allowed to gang rape one of your women.
mm,
It's like, now this is not even in Islam, right? So
mm.
this is
Where
not
did they
even in
come up
Islam.
with?
Wow.
So they have these.
He's wiping his
Yeah. Why and there is a case that happened, that this woman, right, her brother, 14-year-old brother, was gang raped
Mm,
by 8 men, or four or whatever men in the fields, right? And he went to report on them that they gang raped him or whatever. The tribe said no, he actually raped one of our women. They made this whole fake case against him.
mm,
His sister went to the tribal court to
mm,
say, like, to fight the case of her brother. They said no, we have already decided, and you know what, because your brother raped our woman,
mm.
we are going to rape you now. And they took her then and there, 8 men, and raped her in the hut,
Hmm.
right? And this was such a huge case because the president tried to stop this case from coming out and stuff, but it's well known, that case, right?
And
So
I want to ask: is it that when they are coming to London and places, like, don't they ask them questions like, your family, what do you guys usually do? Like, if somebody annoys you,
no, no, it's so easy. It's
because I
so
think this is
easy
like
to
this
come
is like
into
a question that
UK.
I will ask. Like, when someone annoys somebody from your family, offends somebody from your family, what do you guys do in retaliation? This is
Trip them.
question to ask before you before you let them. I know you are running from economic hardship. I get it. You need a job. I get it. But before you come in, can we ask you a couple of questions? If someone
Yeah.
rapes your sister, what do you do?
Now it's so easy, Frank. Like, it's so they ask you on the paper. They would ask you, "Have you ever been a member of a terrorist organization?"
Yes.
Huh. What, what
Everybody
should
telling
I
you.
write over here?
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm going to be truly honest. I've never. I've
Yeah. But it's like, what, like, even if you write yes, but I've changed my mind now. So even then they might say yes, yeah, okay, okay, fine. You change your mind. You're a good person now. You can come in. Like, they had people, right? The cases are incredible, because I went through the whole process of immigration within UK,
Hmm,
like a while back before when I became British citizen. I over prepared. I over prepared by so much because I thought like their rules should be more. But when I got through it, I was like, what? I spent more time putting my bag in the locker than I spent doing the citizenship test. Right, my bags and I finished that in 5 minutes. Within 5 minutes, I was able to finish the test and recheck it as well.
Hmm.
Right?
So
It
say the
was
kind
that
of questions
easy.
that we're asking you. Is it like A,
You
B?
know
What
what?
is the next? What is the next letter?
About history and stuff like, oh, who's the queen or who was that king back then, back then. I was like, well, if you want to become I've been studying this history since I was a kid. So if you want to become a part of it, you have to learn from it, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, they're asking you to take the oath to the king,
Mm.
and there are people who Muslims, when I'm telling them, like, look, Muslims cannot take oath to your king. They're not taking an oath to your king, so
Then,
they can't be citizens.
then they shouldn't be. That's simple now. If you are not going to take oath to the king, then go stay where you will be taking oath to Allah. It's okay. Do they still admit those people into the country too who cannot take oath to the king? They give them citizenship as well. So
No, because they
is that
take the
how the
oath.
mayor
They
of
take the fake oath, like they take the oath, but you know that if they are actual Muslim,
they
that
will not
oath means nothing
nothing
because
to
it's
them?
said like you can't be loyal to a non-Muslim king. Like
Mhm.
it's so obvious.
You are at least asking them to make an oath. We are not. We are
Yeah.
not. We are not even doing that.
Finland is like, come as you are.
Yeah,
Come with
what
Oh, yeah.
doesn't matter. It doesn't. It really
Bring us,
doesn't.
bring us your terrorists and your gang
Yes, yes,
rapists.
bring everybody. It doesn't. Dude, our foreign ministry uses luxury jets to save ISIS terrorists from Al Hol camp and bring them to us. Like it's. I don't even want to get there, but I was thinking of like, isn't like Islam now spreading also in Nigeria and like in a
No,
very fast pace?
no. Maybe they are giving birth to children more, but spreading in the sense of like converting. No, we
I think so. It's declining, isn't it? Because as far as I know, because I had some Nigerian friends, there was more Islam before. Then the impressions is changing. The more Boko Haram is like conducting their
yeah. No, this is the thing.
activities.
This is the thing. Many of the people in Nigeria who claim to be Muslims, they are not. Like there's
Mm,
some people in Nigeria who are just purely political Muslims. They're just Muslims for political
mm,
or social reasons. Especially, I grew up in Lagos, right? And in Lagos, you see
mm.
Muslims of different kind. There's some Muslims I saw in Lagos, like if they are calling Muslims, do not say you are one of them because you
Yeah,
don't attend mosques, you don't go, you only go to for prayers during special events like how you see Christians become Christians during
yeah.
Christmas. There's so many Muslims like that in Lagos that become Christian Muslims during Ramadan and stuff like that. We have
Mm,
those like that in Nigeria. Those who are not serious. And there's this thing that happened in the West where a Muslim man will marry a Christian woman and then try to convert her.
mm,
In Nigeria, it happens. There's a Christian Muslim marriage, you see, but there's no effort to convert the woman. In fact, the man
mm,
will ensure that all his children don't go to the mosque.
mm.
Kind of like the reverse. From that, you
Yeah.
can see that this person really does not believe in the religion, does not even want to train his children in the religion. In fact, he went out to seek a Christian wife because he wants his children to be Christian. Kind of see the
Yeah.
opposite of it in Nigeria because they are exposed to the horrors of Islam. And many of them will not leave because if they do, the privilege they enjoy, the social, economic, and political privileges they enjoy, they won't have. For example, the president of the country is a Muslim. His wife
Mm.
is a pastor.
Interesting.
That
Yes,
is
Interesting.
very weird.
yes, all his children all of them are Christians. In fact, some of them are.
That is really good, though. That
Yes,
is really good.
you can see that he is not. He's just a Muslim because if he's not a Muslim, he will not be president. They will
Yeah.
not vote for him. The Muslims will not vote for him, and the Muslims have like the Muslim vote it's not like it's the majority vote, but it is the easiest vote to get. All you have to do is be a Muslim.
Oh yeah, they're just herd
Yes,
mentality, so
yes,
that
yes.
you
They
just
have
have
this.
to,
Why the South among the Christians there will be this division on who they will vote for. The North, we always say in Nigeria, the North has one voice. They will always vote for one person, and the number one criteria for that person is that you are a Muslim. So when you want to win elections in Nigeria, you just, even though just for the sake of it, pretend. There's this video of the president of the country doing this call to prayer, like leading in prayers. It was so funny. You could see that this guy doesn't even know how to properly pronounce the Arabic. It was bad. So that's the kind of
But
living.
like this is good, like, because I was talking with Antar and other people about this as well. Like, the best way to de-Islamize a lot of these regions is give them a space so that they can become Christian, right? Because these people, they cannot leave, they don't want to leave the religious nature of their whole life and their whole society.
Mm,
Christianity is something that is most closely linked with the Abrahamic faith, and they can admit, at least in their own head, that their prophet was a false prophet, and that Jesus was the way that he was. Because there's a huge difference theologically, not just like by actions. Theologically, there's a difference between Christianity.
mm,
The Christ of Islam is not the same as the Christ himself, because
yes.
they deny trilogy, right? So they
Even
deny
even
that. So
the Islam in the Quran is not does not correspond with the Islam of history. Like, let's even leave the
yeah.
Bible. Just historical Jesus is not the same with the Jesus in the Quran. The Jesus in the Quran was the child of Miriam, the brother of Aaron.
Hmm.
So, and and in the Bible, that's not the case. So there are so many like historical and theological inconsistency with what is really obtainable when you consider both religion and consider what they hold in general. But I don't even think that's the reason why many like people in Nigeria are not like who that are Muslims are not truly or devout Muslims. Is that many of them just hold to their traditional religion. Like,
Yeah,
if I look
yeah.
at the current president of Nigeria, I see him more as somebody who is traditional than somebody
Mm,
who is even a Christian or a Muslim. So like in the West, you see somebody who will go to the mosque on Friday, and on Saturday you see him going to the traditional, like the house where they worship traditional idols and stuff. You see them even try to merge both of them together. They do it a lot in
mm,
Western states. So, but in the North is that I also feel the same thing is applicable in the North, but there is more pressure because the North is more like, will I say, more Islamic. They are more like, some people say they carry the religion on their head more than those in Saudi Arabia, people in the North. So there's this
mm,
serious, and like some states in the North operate Sharia, the legal code, the criminal code for them is Sharia, right? They believe
mm,
in criminalizing adultery, for example, criminalizing drinking, public drinking, and stuff like that.
mm.
If you don't fast, you'll be in
Do
prison
you
during
do
Ramadan.
you
If you
believe
don't,
they have some of those in Great Britain nowadays?
seriously,
We actually have Sharia courts, but
wow.
they're obviously
But it's
the
just
problem
civil
with
matters. They don't legislate criminal.
no, no, 'cause they're not legal courts and they're not recognized legal courts. But what happens is most of the things that they're doing, it has to be just social, right?
Kind of
So
frozen.
people will just follow, otherwise they will be taken to Sharia courts
Don't they
within
don't they
UK.
like don't they officially handle some of the marriage and inheritance
No, no, no,
social
no, no. So
issues?
not officially. So not officially,
Oh,
but
so
what they
yeah.
do is like socially, right? So if within your family, like you take them over there, you have a daughter or whatever,
Mm,
they'll be tied to that code, right? So like polygamy is not allowed within Britain, in Britain legal system, but it's allowed within Sharia. Obviously, that's one of the pulls of Islam. So what they'll do is like they'll get married in Britain with one,
mm,
then they'll go back to Pakistan or wherever, they'll get married with the other person.
mm,
Under Sharia they're married, but
mm.
under British, they will not be married, they will
Marriage.
just be cohabitating, right, with the other person.
And
But
since
to them
Britain
it's not
allows like
it's not a problem because they
polyamorous,
don't recognize English courts.
and since Britain like
Yeah,
they
and they
allow
get benefits,
polyamorous
they get
relationship,
shitloads of benefits from it you
yes,
know
yes, like they'll
they're
be
having
seen
kids they're
as
having kids on our benefits, which pisses me off. They're having kids with like different women on my
why
money.
do the British people allow them to take advantage of their system like that? Like, why?
They're fucking idiots, man. I don't understand why they do it, because I think so. You know what the problem is? At the core of the problem is a liberal issue. Like
Mm,
the laws and the system are liberal, right? They're
mhm,
based on the ideas of liberalism,
mhm,
and you can't exclude people over there just on the basis of their immutable characteristics or their religion and stuff. That's where all the human rights laws are based upon, right?
mhm.
But so it's very easy for someone to manipulate people like that and abuse the system. So then
But
you have a religion that's come in that prides itself on
Mm,
lying, that prides itself on deceiving others and
mm,
taking advantage. And that's the problem. That's why I think like the only solution, reasons why I was saying before, like why I've been leaning on Christianity, is because I don't see any other way of defeating this, because it's not a logical enemy, right?
mm.
It's not a logical, reasonable enemy. It's not an enemy that plays fair as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It is a
They don't
deceitful,
fight fair at all.
lying, corrupt, right? Because they're
Corrupt,
at the
inconsistent,
it's bad coding
hypocritical.
problem, right?
Yeah. When people say discriminate against people based on immutable characteristics, is being a Muslim and you can
No,
change,
no, no.
right?
It's a
It's
so
not an
if we have an
immutable
equal if we have Equality Act, right? So
character.
under Equality Act, it's immutable characteristics, but also religious beliefs and
Oh,
blah blah stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah,
I understand. I understand.
yeah. Is a
But
that's what's stopping.
then they should notice that if I claim something that normally should be outlawed as a religious practice, then there's a conflict there. Like this is why I'm saying this is when we had British common law enforced in Nigeria, how it was
Hmm.
enforced is this: they said because we had traditional laws in Nigeria, right? And they said your
Hmm.
traditional laws are applicable as they as they are compatible with common law, equity, natural
Yeah.
justice, and good conscience. That was how traditional
Hmm.
laws were made a part of our legal system, right? So if you want to also,
Hmm.
include people's religion, don't you? Or shouldn't you? At least you guys are the ones that gave us that. Shouldn't you also include that? Okay, your religion is applicable as long as it is in line with this, and this. Instead of making this blanket economy, will I call it? What did you call it? Equality Act that says, oh, we will not discriminate based on. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Like your practices, they are okay as long as. I don't know if you understand.
I
Your,
think these are recent incursions into the law, into the English common law, right? This has recently happened, where they put progressively they put these laws into practice and make them into acts, and no other parliament is willing to, because all the laws within England are supposed to be made in a way that the next coming parliament can
mm,
take them out according to the will of the people, right?
mm.
But they're not doing it because the two main parties, they're both liberals. One calls themselves conservatives, but they're
But they're
also
not
liberals,
conservative.
right? So they agree with the globalist ideologies of liberalism in that sense. So they agree with those things, right?
Mm,
And it has happened like progressively in England. So this wasn't the case. This
mm,
wasn't always the case that anyone can come in and do whatever the hell they want. They would have been kicked out. The whole
mm,
welfare system is very recent as well. The whole welfare system wasn't there. There was no welfare system before Second World War.
mm,
People have to go to workhouses if they couldn't afford things. They have to work. The
mm,
whole NHS, the whole national health system is
mm,
recent after the Second World War.
mm,
So these progressively they put in these laws, and they've been put in by the left, politically left people,
mm,
where they stop you from defending yourself, right? the
mm.
the, uh, the right to defend yourself
Self-defense.
properly and stuff. So now, like, if a burglar comes into my home, even if it's like a Muslim trying to kill me, and I beat the shit out of him, he might sue me for using excessive force, right? Even though he came in my house with the intent to kill,
Mm,
right? So you can defend yourself, but there has to be a limit. There was a case when this guy came in, right? Tried to burgle an old woman's house,
mm,
and her roof gave in, and he fell through the roof or
mm.
something of that sort. He sued her.
Did he win?
He sued her because he got injured. You know,
When you are buggling somebody, you shouldn't get injured. It should happen
yeah.
smoothly.
You didn't upkeep your roof. It's like,
Occupier's
what the hell?
liability applies to invaders. That's interesting.
Yeah. But this is the thing. So this is a problem where sometimes where I have a criticism of liberalism, that it catches its tail sometimes. It doesn't know when to stop
Top, yeah,
and when
it
to look
doesn't.
back and say, "Hey, liberalism is really good. Social liberalism is very good in a lot of things." But sometimes it has to take a step back and say, look, listen, we can't keep on tolerating just anything. We
Mm-hmm.
need to stop somewhere, right? It doesn't know when to stop, and it just like starts, like, now what we're seeing is its end point killing itself, sort of a thing. And the
Mm,
wokeism is sort of its end point manifestation of it. anyways, like, because it's
Where it's
gone
just
so
everything
crazy.
just turns on its own head, and it doesn't make sense anymore. Nobody cares. They're like liberalism for the sake of it. There's no end goal. Okay, we are liberal towards what end?
Yeah.
Let's just be liberal for liberal's sake. Let's be inclusive for inclusivity's sake. So
Hmm.
inclusivity becomes the god that is like it's like a religion at this point. Even when it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense, even when it does not help society, we just have to keep up.
And not just religion, Frank, a bad religion,
Yes,
right?
it's a very bad one. It's a very bad
Because
one.
it's a religion that kills its own people,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's sort it, and
And
it.
that is why it merges perfectly with Islam. It's like
Oh yeah.
liberalism and Islam is like a match made in hell. It's like this is one. It's like the end goal is Islam at the end of the day, because Islam will just take full advantage of something that, and then tell them. Even look at the way they've shaped the narrative with regards to Israel. The way they've done it is just put things like colonialists, put things like settlers, put things like
Hmm.
occupiers. Once you attach those labels to these things, everybody sees it as something bad. I was like, even
Yeah.
if Israel is a colonialist entity in the Middle East, that is not for me. That is not enough argument. Like, even if I'm to grant you that, I don't know why people don't even
Yeah.
think. Like, I watched some of this debate and I'm like, let's say everything these people are saying is true. Why is it bad? Okay, why is it bad that a colonial entity is in the Middle East? Explain to me, why is it bad? Because Nigeria, people say, oh,
Then kick out Muslims from Nigeria. Then kick out all of, like,
they,
the whole
they talk
religion.
about the fact that Israel is a colonialist creation. Nigeria is a colonialist creation. You think this country always existed? This was created by the British government.
Yeah.
Ghana did not exist. In fact, Israel is older than Nigeria. Are
Yeah.
people aware of this? So,
I mean,
No,
if we
no,
are going to,
no.
yeah.
if we are going
I
to
mean,
if we are going
it's
to
so
destroy
weird. Like, you
every
can't.
colonialist creation, then you destroy Nigeria. Do you know that this country wanted to split in 1967, and the British stopped it from splitting, yet they were willing to grant Palestine a two states. Yeah, they were not even willing to grant it to Nigeria. Nobody said anything about it. In fact, they saw it as
Yeah.
a good thing that the country remained united.
Yeah.
Like,
The
some of these
thing is,
arguments, like, you can apply it in so many African countries, and you'll be like, oh, what the British did was a good thing. But when it comes to Israel, you're like, it's a colonialist entity. I'm like, yes, come to every African country. They are all
And it's such
colonialist
a,
entities.
like, it's so weird as well, because when it came up, I was like, every sensible Arab knows that those are the lands of Jews, right?
Mm-hmm,
There's no debate about that. It's even in Quran. In Quran, again and again, it says, the Banu Israel, the land of children of Israel.
mm-hmm,
It says, we gave you those lands. Allah says in Quran, I gave you those lands, and those are for you to keep till eternity,
mm-hmm.
right? Everyone knows is their lands. It is their historic lands. These Bedouin Arabs and stuff, they have no place over there.
But,
There was
but
no
but as long
Arabs
as
over
they're able,
there.
but as long as they're able to convince this workers that, oh, this thing has something to do with
Yeah.
colonialism, and the workers don't even ask themselves, okay, I know whenever we hear the word colonial, it triggers us. But why? Why is this such a bad
Yeah.
thing? Why is it really such a
Because
bad
it's
thing?
a
they only see
buzzword.
things. Yeah.
Yes, they don't
And
even
they
think
only
like,
see
okay,
from
why do we
from
hate this thing? Oh,
yeah.
I feel it just had to do with the excellence of Europe, because colonialism is one of the
Yeah.
things that signaled that Europe was great. Britain was great. They conquered
They
most
just
parts of
did
the
it
world.
better. Like,
And anything that reminds them of that is something that should be destroyed. Anything that reminds you of the fact that your
yeah.
ancestors were great. You know,
Yeah.
for example, there are things in Nigeria, they'll be like colonialism was terrible. They stole our resources. I was like, if I were you, I would ask myself, how were these people able to do it? And then copy what they did. Maybe you'll be
Yeah.
great too, and not be the laughing stock of the whole world. If you stop, I
I
don't know if
mean,
you know.
this was my argument with Pakistanis as well, right? So when they were crying about British colonialism, I told them, like, well, you guys colonized India, right? And you destroyed the Indian culture, their heritage, their religion and stuff. You came over them, and you were far more brutal. You destroyed all the idols and stuff from Afghanistan to the end of India, right? The
Mhm,
British, when they came, they actually liberated the Hindus in a way
mhm.
from your fucking rules, you know.
Didn't
So
Taliban just colonize Afghanistan?
yeah, I mean, it just like, okay, British did it, right? But they were just better at it, man.
That's
They were
it.
just better at it, right? So
That is
if
how
you had the chance, you would do it as well, and you would have
exactly.
done it worse.
Exactly. I don't see anybody, any empire that was as great as that will become great as the British Empire and will not have done what they did. Like, I don't see
Yeah,
why you will
they
not
would
do
have
that.
done it worse though. This is what
Exactly.
I always say. Like British actually didn't do as much atrocities
I
and
call I
didn't
call
do
the
as
Brit
bad. They actually built countries.
I call the British colonialists with a conscience. That's how
Yeah,
that's how I see them. I see them as colonialists with a conscience. If they were not with if they didn't have any conscience, they would have been brutal. Really brutal.
yeah.
They left because they wanted to leave. They didn't leave because
Mm.
we kicked them off. No, they left.
Yeah,
They left Nigeria because they wanted to leave. If they didn't
yeah.
want to leave, they would
But
still be here till
even
now.
if you see what happened in America, right? So when they tried to colonize America and stuff, and they did that, then they started giving powers back to the Native Americans. They were like, no, is these their lands? Our colonial people, the American one, you should only stay on the east side of it. The rest of it is for the Native Americans, right?
Mhm.
They had that idea, and they supported the Native Americans when America was trying to take all over them. But
Ever seen Muslims give back native lands?
They don't. They don't. If people know that, I doubt that they do. If Muslims were to in fact, they feel that if they once
they're
own,
crying about Spain, like still, right?
yeah,
Oh,
they feel
Spain was ours. We
if
should take back.
they
They're
believe if they
still
once
crying
own
about
this
those
thing,
things.
if they once own this thing and then someone takes it away from them, it is theirs. Somehow they still have a
Yeah,
claim to it. Is that not how
yeah,
they see Spain? Like, oh, don't we'll see one day we'll take over Spain again. It is still ours. It's still the house
yeah,
of Allah. You know,
yeah,
anything they this is the same way they see Jerusalem. Is the same way they see the whole
yeah,
land that is Palestine. Palestine. They see it as once we are in control of this, and we will always be in control of it. It is ours, even though they've
yeah.
not owned it forever. You know, the same thing
It's
with
so
northern
funny.
Nigeria.
They can't even say Palestine in their language because there's no
They don't
per
have
sound in
P. Yeah,
Arabic. There's no per sound. Like they have to say Palestine.
Philistine.
That's
It's
why it's Palestine. You
Hmm.
know, it's not like you can't even say that word. That's how much it doesn't belong to you.
Yeah, which is and it just brings us back to to how I introduced this, which is how people in the West, especially the woke crowd, are just easily deceived by buzzwords. Like, once you throw this label on something, you can convince them about anything by just using like those kind of labels. And somehow they also, when you now put in the word genocide, it's like perfect. It's all of them come to because they believe every colonial force was a genocidal country or government or military or what have you, as if they went to every part of the world and they were just killing people and wiping them off. So once you see Israel as colonialists, you see them as settlers, it's no longer hard to see them as genocidal, as like they are just even the way I see them talk about so many of the military activities of the Israeli army, the IDF. They're like, oh, the IDF is currently bombing Lebanon. Like, can you imagine? And then I'm like, oh, did they just wake up? And they were like, yeah, bomb Lebanon. Did they just wake up and they were like, yeah, bomb Iran? Did they just wake up and they were like, bomb Palestine? Like, you people cut out the other part because you've seen these people like there's nothing they do. There's no action of the Israelis that is justified. It is wrong. No matter what may have sparked it, it's wrong. It's just let
Mm,
every other nation just keep bombing them and they should not respond. It just doesn't make sense. How do you think like this? How do you come to this conclusion? It's when you've bought that narrative of, oh, we are trying to liberate people. And again, they no longer talk about peace now. It's now liberation, everything. In fact,
yeah.
the Muslims are good at this. They also co-opt
Mm,
the phrase liberation and be like, we are the people who are trying to conquer the whole world are the ones liberated. It's just so wonderful
yeah.
the way they are able to do that. And they're like, yeah, we are trying to liberate Palestine. And maybe when they are also conquering London, they will say they are trying to liberate London. And maybe when they are
Oh, they're
conquering
Yeah,
already saying
London,
that, man.
they'll be
They're
like,
already saying that.
they're liberating you
yeah,
from
they
the
are,
horrors of not being a Muslim.
yes.
So like within Britain, there are like two biggest Islamist activists that they work through five pillars and stuff. There's Muhammad Hijab,
Mm,
and there's this guy Ali Dawa and stuff like that, right? And other people as well, like within five pillars is like a mouthpiece of the Islamist thing, which
mm,
I don't know why it's not banned. And
mm,
they have admitted over there and they've talked about it, like, we have learned your systems to use your systems against you. and that's why we're using your languages, your narratives, and stuff like that. They're like, this is the reason why they are so in line with communists, because it's the same game plan, right? It's the same rule book that they play from.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the takia of Islam is the same what they do in communism,
Mm-hmm.
right? The subversion of it is the same what Islamists do. Like, they'll get into your universities and stuff, which Marxism has done, which has corrupted the people.
Mm-hmm.
This is why they're all like into the oppressor and oppressed narratives. It's
Yeah.
from the Marxism. It's an old playbook, right?
Yeah.
And
And Muslims have co-opted this
Muslims
language,
use
the language of those people.
exact.
Co-opted it completely.
If they had brains, they would think like, okay, imagine if Israel was an Islamic country, and Palestine or the Gaza and West Bank were actually Jewish.
Mm.
It wouldn't have lasted 75
It
years.
would
It
not.
would have
It would
lasted
not.
one, not even a
It would
year.
not
It
have
would have
even
lasted a
existed.
day.
That's the funny. It would not
Yeah,
have even existed. It would not.
exactly. But
And
people don't engage their brain of,
they
if
don't
Israel
think.
wanted to, they could wipe them out.
Hmm.
If
In a day,
Israel
in a
wanted that.
day.
I
It's
mean,
it's
it,
like
Yeah,
militarily, it's in a day.
but they have a
exactly.
conscience.
There's something I was listening to someone say. Is an Israeli lady, and she was talking to the Palestinians. She was making these funny videos, and she was talking to Palestinians, and she was like, "You people are lucky you chose Israel as your enemy. That if you had chosen
Yes,
Yeah.
another, if you had chosen another
yes.
Muslim country as your enemy, you would have
I've
been
been saying this forever as a Kurdish person. Our like traditional enemy has been Turkey, that has been always bombing Kurds.
Mhm.
And Kurds are looking at Palestine, are all like, you guys are lucky. You guys are lucky. Your enemies are Israel, who actually cares about civilian
Yeah,
deaths and
they
does
care about the people they are
sends you
trying to kill.
humanitarian help. And we get none of this. We just get bombs. We
And the
only get
one, and
bombs.
we don't even get international recognition. It's like,
No,
no, no,
we don't get anything.
No, Iraq fucks them over. Turkey does that. Every country
No,
around
no,
Kurdistan, like they
bomb
just
us
do
away. When there is
it.
no Jews, there is no news. You can just bomb us
exactly,
away.
exactly. Look at what is happening in northern Nigeria. Look at what is happening as at the beginning of this week in Plateau State. Plateau State it's not even in the north, and yet but they are neighbors, close neighbors with people in the north. And you have Fulanis, like Fulani militants, Islamic
Hmm.
militants attacking the villages. Like they've been doing that since December. Although there were
Yeah.
times in the past that they did that and then they stopped. I think when we had like a stronger presidency that would not stand for stuff like that. So now they've resumed because they see for the first time in a long time in Nigeria, the president is a Muslim, the vice president is a Muslim. So it kind of give these Islamists the idea that they now run the country and they can now just run loose and do whatever they want. And that has led to like kidnappings, like you have local governments in these countries, regions in these countries that have their own Islamic government within Nigeria. It's so crazy. And
Hmm.
they are unofficial, but they are more or less the government in those regions because they collect tax, they determine who moves into the community, who moves out, and you see them expanding and they are moving in. Just the recent attack was at a university. They were shooting students, students were running into hiding, running into bushes into hiding. Like how many have they killed? At this point, I believe they've killed up to like 500 at this point. Maybe because we are not doing figures like 30,000. That's why nobody cares. Or maybe they don't have a Gaza Ministry of Health that can amplify the numbers. Maybe then, the world will care. And this is
It's
ongoing right now. You see,
But nobody talks about it,
nobody
right?
talks
And
about
I
it.
have to say as well, like, but I have to say right now, everything that Frank is saying is misinformation and disinformation. The noble African people will never be like this. They are very diverse and they're very inclusive and they're very noble
It's true
people.
that we are
It's
diverse,
only
though.
white people who know about evil things. Only white people do things like that. So it's misinformation that he's putting out there. So YouTube should ban him right now.
Oh, I don't know if you guys have heard about the blasphemy case that kind of like rocked Nigeria. It happened, I think, last 2 years in 2022 in the University of Sokoto. I don't know if you guys heard about the lady that was burnt to death for blasphemy. Okay, what happened was that in 2020, this was University of Sokoto. So I believe they had an exam. The results for the exams were out. And this lady did well. Like she did exceptionally well.
Hmm.
She did so well that her classmates were like, "How did you do it?" And they had like this WhatsApp group.
Which
Not even that. That was not even what made her a blasphemer. They had like this WhatsApp group and they were discussing like, how did you do well? How were you able to, do so well? Many of us failed and you were excellent. And then she said, "It's Jesus." That's what she said.
Oh,
It's Jesus. And then immediately they told her to apologize.
this is crazy.
Yeah, and she said she would not apologize, that she does not like whenever they do this religious nonsense. That's what she said. She said, "I don't like when people bring in this religious nonsense into every conversation," something like that. I'm paraphrasing here. But she used the word religious nonsense. And that was tagged blasphemy.
That's
And the next day she went to class and her classmate had called people from outside the community and they came, dragged her, beat her, and burnt her alive. Now, the
Christian.
person she's a Christian, obviously. She won't say it's Jesus because she's a Muslim. She's a Christian. And that's why she said, her name is Deborah. So
No,
she
but
even has
the ones who burned her were Christians or Muslims?
No, they
no
were
Muslim.
Muslims. They were Muslims. They were
Okay.
Muslims. They were, it was the Muslims that burnt the woman. Sokoto is like a Muslim majority state in Nigeria. It's one of the...
Why do the Muslims care if the Christian woman is like?
No, but they always do that wherever they. I've seen that in Pakistan as well. They beat people to death. To the Christians, they burn their homes. In Hindus, they do the same wherever they are in majority.
Maybe they didn't like the fact that the woman did well. I don't know. See, I feel Muslims generally, especially when they have this... maybe I'm speaking based on Nigerian Muslims. They have this, will I call it complex? Is it an inferiority complex or
Yeah,
something?
yeah.
Because when they
Yes,
compare,
yes, it's
especially
global. It's global.
whenever they
It's
compare
not just
themselves to
Nigeria.
Christians, there's just this stack, not just Christians, anybody, non-Muslims, you are supposed to be the best of peoples, right? Allah has favored you above everyone else. And then when you look at the reality of the situation, it's just like, he really has not, you guys are not the best of people. Come on, look at you people. Yes, something,
But Frank, it starts from Muhammad. It starts from Muhammad, right? He had an inferiority complex. He was filled with resentment against the Jews. He wanted to take over their lands. He wanted to. This is why, like, there's so many times, like in Quran, for so long, Allah is actually pleading to the Jews, right?
and
If Banu Israel, it keeps on talking about them. Oh, we've given you everything, so why are you not coming to me? Oh, we've like giving you, it's so plentiful, so why don't you follow
and the
Muhammad and
Muslims
stuff
are
like
like,
that? So
and the Jews are like, we don't know who this guy is.
yeah, it's like no, like he's dog shit. Like we're not gonna come to your level. Like
You know.
come on,
And that's kind
But
of like, I feel...
this is the resentment fuels it.
yeah,
Resentment
and I feel
and
that
inferiority complex.
I feel that's kind of what played into the whole mindset of why they were angry with her when she said Jesus was the one who made it possible for her to pass her exam.
Hmm.
Basically giving glory to God as a Christian would. And then they were like, she should apologize. And she says she will not apologize. She does not like this religious nonsense. They burnt her. And then here's the funny part. The person who burnt her alive, they filmed the whole thing. And the person who burnt her alive went towards the camera, showed his hand, and the matches he used to burn her, was like, look at my hand, look at the matches. I did it. Like, this is like, I'm boldly showing myself as the person who did it. And do you know that this person is free? No,
Yeah,
no, nothing. He was
nothing
not...
has been done.
No, nothing has been done to the person, right? And then Muslims went online in Nigeria and they were fully 100% in support
Yeah,
of what happened.
yeah,
Even
yeah.
Muslim politicians.
Praising that guy probably,
Yes,
or
they
he'll get
were. They
heaven
were
for
like,
this.
yeah, people should not be talking anyhow about our prophet. Dude, nobody mentioned your prophet. People should not be doing this. Nobody mentioned the Quran. Nobody said anything about Islam. Nobody said anything about your religion. There is not, by what, I'm planning to make a video about it, which is, I want to talk about blasphemy and how Muslims treat the term blasphemy, because it has no meaning. In modern day
No.
Islam, it has no meaning. Anything can qualify. If I was reading there's this Wikipedia page on blasphemy in Islam, and they have a couple of instances, modern instances, that has been categorized as blasphemy, and some of them just are the typical things we find in Nigeria. Just a minor dispute between a Christian and a Muslim, or a Muslim and a non-Muslim, and then the Muslim guy just immediately say, "Oh, this person once burnt the Quran, or he tore a Quran, this thing, or he said..."
Yeah.
There's no proof of it. He just makes
Yeah.
the accusation, and before anybody can verify, boom, somebody is already on fire.
Yeah.
It's
I've seen that, Frank. I've seen that with my own eyes in Pakistan, right? People beaten to death, right? And people don't understand this in the West. What it means when someone is saying they were beaten to death. You know, like how many people have to beat someone for how long and how much for that person to die of their injuries over there. I've seen that. On all it takes is, oh yeah, he said something about Muhammad. That's it. The mob come because they have this energy around them. This warrior, not good warrior, but this like fucking wild man, caveman energy about them. They
Mm.
just want, they want an excuse
To be
to do this,
violent.
right? They're spiritually frustrated because there's no spirituality in Islam, and they're sexually frustrated because the religion stops them from having sex. So a lot of people, when they say, oh yeah, or these Muslims, they're gay because they're having gay sex, they're not having gay sex because they're gay. It's just the way that that's the
They're
only
like
way that they
prisoners.
can.
They're like male prisoners
Yeah,
in Rikers Island. You have
yeah,
no woman around,
yeah.
and all the women are
That's why they're fucking goats and stuff as well.
That's just
But
brutal.
yeah, but this is a problem. This is an actual, like, problem that people just don't want to understand, that this is why it's not about ethnicity, it's about like that ideology, that we have to stop calling it as a religion first,
Mm,
and we have to say that it is a bad ideology, it's an evil ideology.
mm,
Just like the same thing that we don't go around and saying, when people talk about moderate Muslims and stuff, right,
mm.
we don't go around and say, oh, like he's a Nazi but he doesn't believe in all of the Nazism things, and he don't go around killing people and stuff like that. He's a pillar of the community, he
Mm.
does a lot of charity work, so like, his Nazism is his cultural thing, like,
Just
we
as a
don't,
little bit of Nazi.
yeah, we don't say that, right? And I put that in the same category, Islam
Yeah,
in the same category as
even
that.
when people say Islam, Muslim, there's some benefits to being to the ideology. I'm like, even to be a Nazi, there's some benefits to it. At least the Nazis were
Yeah,
patriotic, don't you know? Like they are more patriotic than the people you see on the left today. Yeah, and patriotism is a
yeah.
good thing, but you can also turn it on its head. The fascism has this element of focusing on masculinity and trying to. It looks like a masculinity
Mm,
cult. It calls to this like you said, this caveman energy, this masculine spirit, which the left tries to, dumb down. So you can see that
mm,
as an advantage. Does that mean that okay, Nazism or fascism is good? Of course, it is not. It still
No,
has so many
no.
deadly
And
elements behind it that
it
you
kind
can.
of reminds me of a quote from a cartoon series called Rick and Morty, where he says that you are worse than Hitler because even Hitler cared about the German people. And that's the point. Like, Islam
yeah.
is worse than Hitler because it doesn't really care
Yeah,
about the
but
Muslim
yeah,
people
it does.
either.
It
And
does.
it's very similar to communism in that way, isn't it? Because that's what we see, like that's what we see in the West, that is corrupting people,
Mm,
because the communists, they hate their own people.
yeah.
Like today we're recording on St. George's Day, right?
Mm.
And as like clockwork, whenever St. George's Day they come about these all these lefties. Oh, he was Turkish, blah 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 blah. It's like, fuck off. Right? It's not about that. B, he was not Turkish because there was no
He's
Turkey at
back
that
there.
time.
Yeah.
It was Greek
Even,
and Roman,
you
right?
didn't even hear the part where they say he's a Palestinian saint.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's because we are all Palestinians, Frank.
Everybody
We're
is.
all Palestinians.
I knew it was he
Allah
was
was a
Minus those
I
who
knew
are
Palestinian.
he was going to be
Palestinian.
Palestinian.
Adam was
Yeah,
Palestinian.
I knew he
Moses
was
was
going to be
Palestinian. We're
Palestinian the
all
moment that
Palestinians.
we came to the conclusion that both Jesus, Abraham, David, all the heroes in the Bible, they were all Palestinians. So when we came to that conclusion, I was like, nah,
Yeah,
even Saint Saint George will not escape it. There's no way he's going. He too is going to become a Palestinian. It doesn't matter that he fought for the Roman army. That's by the way. What is important now is his Palestinian
yeah.
identity, which did not exist.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, especially like with the Saint George's thing, right? They don't understand the concept. It's like that woman Deborah,
Mm,
right? The denial, or the rejection, that no, I will not deny
mm.
Jesus, right? Jesus is my savior
That
and
was why
stuff.
he was killed.
That is a spirit that the English took, that warrior spirit of a warrior
Mm,
saint, right? At the time of
mm,
crusades, they took him on, and that is what they're trying to symbolize. That's what it
mm.
symbolizes. But these people on the left, on the political left, they're as stupid as these Islamists and Muslims, because they don't have the, under a certain IQ level, you can't correlate things, you can't understand similes, you can't understand, you can't understand abstract
Mm,
ideas. I think so that plays a lot of part as
mm,
well. And they can't understand the reason why St. George is taken. It's not because he's English,
mm,
it's because he was Christian, unwilling to deny Christ even when faced with death. That was the whole
mm,
point. And that was used to rally up
mm,
crusaders against these bloody
mm.
Mohammedans, so that was the whole point.
And that story is lost. It's now since identity politics is the order of the day. What is now important is where he came from and his birthplace. That's kind of just, and I think it dehumanizes people because this is why even before I started talking about Islam, I was talking about the woke identity and the woke politics and the whole everything.
Mm,
Is that you reduce people to certain things that is not the essence of who they are. Is I remember I made a
yeah.
video. It's a long video on my channel. I was reacting to people who were talking about colonialism in Nigeria. And there was one who was talking. That video, many people were even making fun of me for defending what I was defending. But I was like, you don't understand because you don't live in Nigeria. The person was condemning. There was a person who was condemning Nigerian judges wearing the white wig. You get the Nigerian judges still
Oh
wear
yeah,
it,
I saw that one.
and I get it. As even so many people, so many part of Europe, they've abandoned it. I get that you guys don't even value that thing again. But to Nigerians, especially those because although I was not called to buy in Nigeria, I studied law in Nigeria. So I have lawyer friends, so many of them. If you know how that thing is a thing of honor and a thing of pride to them. It's
Mm,
not the way we see it is no longer how you people who introduce it to us see it. It has
mm,
taken a different identity for us. And now you are criticizing it and making
yeah.
fun of it. And I'm telling you, I know how it came about, but what it is right now for Nigerians is not how you are seeing it anymore.
Yeah.
And criticizing this thing is no longer just, especially seeing it on a black person. It's no longer you just criticizing colonialism. You are criticizing our modern identity. And that was what I was
Mm,
pushing back at. You don't know how Nigerians see this thing. Do you know how parents jubilate? They call it having a new week. Oh, it's a wonder. The way parents will throw a party that, hey, my son now has a new week. He's now a lawyer, is what it
mm,
means. And then you're like, oh, look at these people, it's colonialism. They have been brainwashed by the whites. No. Do you know we don't wear clothes before? It was British people that made us wear. So
yeah.
should we also, as we are throwing away the white wig, should we also throw away the clothes? You get what I'm saying? Like, this
Exactly.
is our
That's
modern
the thing.
identity. I know how it came about, but right now we have made it our own.
Yeah, it's what you do
Yeah,
with
it's
it.
what,
That's the
and that
whole
is how
point, isn't it? What
and that
you
is
do with
how
it.
modern identities are created. Like you borrow from here, you borrow from here, you see something from here that you like, you imbibe it into your own custom. Nobody's asking stupid questions about, do you know that this stands for white supremacy? Well, it can stand for white supremacy, but that's not why I use it. Can't I use it for a different reason?
Yeah.
This woke identity
Yeah.
just reduces people to people who cannot grow, who cannot change, who cannot adopt things, who cannot on their own form. Like the response that I get is that, oh, the reason why you people wear the wig is that you've not gotten over the fact that the British conditioned your mind and blah blah. I'm like, do you know how rampant hatred for the British is in Nigeria? But we still wear the wig because we like it. We hate the British so much, but we still like the wig. You don't need to convince the average Nigerian to hate British people. If it was they colonized us, we don't like them. We just don't. You don't need to go if you think, there are two sets of people who hate the British, those in England and also those outside. The hatred is mutual, is the same. You don't need to convince us that we shouldn't like them. Half of the things that people you celebrate as your culture, we don't like. But the ones we like, we like. Or even the
Yeah.
fact that Nigerians we consider it we see it as something worth celebrating, as something worth encouraging, to see a Nigerian who knows how to speak properly, like speak proper English grammar, not the ones that are just butchering it left and right. I'm not sure I'm even really good at it, but
Mm,
when we see a Nigerian who can speak very well, it's like, wow, we like that. And you even still see people criticize us for liking someone who speaks proper grammar. Like, anything worth doing, is it not worth doing well? Maybe that's why we like it. Maybe we like that because We like any person who can speak properly. It's the same thing you see if you find somebody who can speak proper, like even these days it's beginning to the number of people who can do that is dwindling in southern part of Nigeria. People who can speak their local language properly. And when we see people who speak the local language properly, we kind of like that. The same way we like people who can speak English properly. We just like people who can command a language, foreign or local, properly. But then you see somebody will say, oh, if somebody is prioritizing the ability to speak English properly, it's because of the colonial identity. I'm like, stop. You are insisting that we hold on to this colonial whatever. Like, stop. You don't stop defining us by that. Stop using that to define us. We cannot just like something and just like it. It has to be, you are the one insisting.
I've seen this phenomenon in like Finnish Muslim societies, where if like immigrant Muslim societies, if a kid learns Finnish language too well, the other ones will be like, "Oh, are you trying to mimic those kafirs? Are you trying to be like those white people?" It's like, no, he just knows how to speak properly and write properly, and
What is so bad
it's not
about
like
that?
only white people are
In the
allowed to
country
do
that you're
this.
benefiting from, like in the country that you're benefiting from as well, like
Yes,
it's
in the country you're benefiting when you're not
And
supposed to learn the
here's even the part
language.
that I find even more interesting is the fact that I see so many white people who are also fascinated by African culture. So what is the reason for that? Do you know, see, people still tell them is because some people still accuse, like, they'll see a white person who can speak Yoruba very well, and then they see Nigerians, they're like, oh, because we like it. Whenever we see somebody from another culture who kind of learns our culture and is very good at it, like speaking the language, dressing, eating the food and everything, we are wowed by it. And then someone will be like, why are you wowed by that? Does you know that you too are you not also good at speaking English? Why are you wowed by the fact that a white person? I'm like, because it doesn't happen often. How about that? How about the fact that because it doesn't happen
and they're
often, we
appreciating.
are appreciating the fact that
That's
people
the
like
thing as
our
well. Like,
culture? And they like it. So it's not,
yeah,
our culture does not make the news all the time. I don't know if you are aware. How many times have you seen Nigerian culture
yeah,
in the news? So when we see it going places, we are happy about it. Jesus Christ, just allow Nigerians or the average human being to just enjoy simple things and enjoy it for just what it is, without coming with this your university language and buzzword of how to divide. They tell you, think about why do you like this thing? How about I just like it because I just like it? Can we not stop
yeah.
over
I mean,
analyzing
that's
things?
the thing about like uh, this whole thing about cultural appropriation as well, right? It's sort of like, well, someone is taking an interest in your culture, in your values and stuff like that, or trying to mimic you, or they're appreciating a part of you, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of like saying, "Oh, Frank, you're very beautiful." It's like, why did you say that? Did you say that because you're a white supremacist? It's
Even
like,
the whole
no,
cultural
you're just
appropriation
giving you a
stuff
compliment.
is
Take
the
it.
biggest nonsense I've ever seen in my life. Like, I hate that so much because it doesn't make sense to any person who is from that culture that they are trying to defend someone from or stop someone from appropriating. If I see a white person dressed like an Igbo man, I have no problem with it. In fact, I'm like, wow, oh, you're appreciating my culture. Like that. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I wish white people would use traditional Kurdish dresses and have fun
Yeah,
with
yeah,
it. Like, we
exactly.
don't
That's how I see it.
care.
I
We
wear
don't
I wear
care.
su- I wear suits. I dress like white people every day, and
Yeah.
then I see a white person dressed
exactly.
like
You're appropriating British culture.
But have you guys noticed? Have you guys noticed how appropriating any other culture than
Mm,
Islam is bad? But when
mm.
you put on a hijab and
yes,
act like a
exactly.
Muslim, it
Oh,
is
Really good. No,
good.
wearing a
oh yeah.
kafia is not cultural appropriation. It's just fantastic. You're standing for resistance, ladies and gentlemen. When you do that, it's
Yes,
not
yes.
cultural
So what it
appropriation.
does,
It shows
think about
it
it.
is
What
okay.
what
It
this
is
woke culture does
it's promoting Islam at the end of
is
the
push
day.
away every other one
And
and just leave
Yeah.
Islam.
it's
Yeah.
like
So
this
But
woke families are
that's
just
what it
doing the
does.
job of
Like,
the Islamists. It's like that's essentially what they're
Islam is like a Death Star or something, like, it goes from country to country, destroys and sucks all their culture and
exactly.
replaces them with robots. That's what it has always
Yeah,
done.
like
Is fucked over Persian culture. It's destroyed the Indian culture and stuff. Even so much so that there's a lot of things that went into the Hindu culture, which are actually not from their
mm,
religion. Their conservative ideas and
mm.
stuff that has come from Islam. Actually, this helped destroy them.
even
Basically,
even even the
you know.
cultures of northern Nigerian kingdoms. Like in northern Nigeria, you had two big kingdoms in West Africa. Like if you want to study West African history, these two big kingdoms you learn about it, which is the Kanembono Empire and the Hausa kingdoms. These are like huge
Hmm.
civilizations in northern Nigeria. And one of the major leaders, like in the Hausa kingdoms, the 7 Hausa kingdoms, is Queen Amina, right? Queen Amina of Zaria. She was believed to be a very notable figure. And I remember one time I was talking about her in a shot, and people in the comments we are saying, like, they even knew that to believe that this woman is from Hausa kingdoms, a place where today a woman even showing your face is not even possible. And I was like, that is Islam for you. Take a culture that was so. Imagine how liberal a culture would be that you have. And she was not like, she wasn't like Queen Elizabeth. No, she was like a warrior queen. She didn't get married. She's as feminist as it gets. Like that's and this is something in prehistoric Hausa kingdoms. And then when Islam came, just wiped all of that away completely. Now women cannot hold positions. That's to tell you what Islam does. You know, I even tell some of my like Nigerian friends in the South who don't know much about the North, because for you to learn, I didn't grow up in the North or have much interaction with the North. How I got to learn about them is by reading about their history and stuff. And I used to tell them that, do you know that the North that we see today, they are not usually, this is not how they used to be. They'll be like, it's not true. I'm like, seriously, these people, we are way advanced than we in the South. Like my people, we are still, why the North? We are already organizing themselves in kingdoms. We are having kingdoms and empires. We in the South, we are still living in villages, you know, and we were living in villages till the British came. In fact, that was why it was easy for them to just pia all of us, you know.
Yeah.
It was easy because we didn't have like this.
A lot of African
countries.
A lot of African cultures. I was like talking about when you talk about that the queen. What was she
Queen
called?
Amina.
Queen Amina. I think Somalians even have a story of this Queen Arawelo before Islam, which is like super feminist and like a warrior queen. And then Islam comes and it just
now
goes
women are
away.
silent. Exactly. You see that in many like African civilizations. So when I tell them in the South that, do you know, we are not as developed as them. We lived in tribes. We are living in tribes. Even we didn't have kings, which is something Igbos say used to pride themselves. They're like, Igbo man doesn't have king. I'm like, nah, it's because we are not that organized. That's why you don't have kings. They had kings because they were more organized. It's not a thing to brag about. And now you look at them and you're like, these people, it will be hard to believe that these people prehistorically we are better than us. These people, we are interacting with Arab traders. We are interacting with people from different regions. When you talk about the Mali Empire, right? These were empires in Western Nigeria. Now it's like a shadow of itself. It doesn't even exist. It has become Islam. Just, although some people would love to, because the British came, they also want to blame it on the British. But I was like, no, these things we are being eroded before even the British came. In fact, when the British came, they could not see. They could not. All they saw was remnants of what used to be. You understand? That was exactly what they meant.
And their occupation probably helped Nigeria in that way, because they got started on the development
British
stage of it, to get over
which
the
is one of the things
hangovers.
that I thank the British for, is that if not for the British, I would have been a Muslim. Yeah, because the Islamic invasion from Northern Africa was coming down to West Africa, and what stopped it in Nigeria was the British colonial forces, so to speak, because they had conquered the jihad of Uthman Dan Fodio had conquered the Hausa nations, that conquered Kanem-Borno Empire. It had even conquered part of the Western Kingdom, which is the Oyo Empire in the West. Part of it had been conquered. And then during that period where it was conquering the West, the British came. That is why you have so many states in the West still have like presence of Muslims, a good number of Muslims because of that. But if you come to places like the East, where they had not even considered, they were not considering approaching. I believe the way the wave of Islam was coming was from the western part, then towards the eastern part of the country. So it had not even gotten to the east. That's why if you go to the eastern part of the country today, like where I stay in Nigeria, you won't even see mosque or anything like that. I moved from the west to the east. I was like, you know what? I don't want to have any interaction with this. I don't want to see this. Part of the reason why I moved was because of where I also schooled. So I just moved to the east completely.
Yeah.
When you look at
Frank, I moved the whole country, right? And I found them over here more. It's like, what the hell, man?
I moved to where they are less, and where they cannot. Although they are here, but they are Muslims here, but they don't have the control that they have in the north and in the west. So what happened because of when the colonialists when the British colonial government came, was that with the spread of Christianity and the way they allowed missionaries to operate in the South, they were able to push the Islamic invasion away and then made the South like predominantly Christian. Like Eastern Nigeria now, like I'm sure if you do a census, you realize that 70 to 80% of them are Catholics. So that's
Yeah.
kind of like.
But this is a huge coming back to that point that I was making earlier as well. This is why I think Christianity is so important in defeating Islam,
I
right?
really feel that way
Because
too. I really do.
yeah, because and I understand like people like Antar as well, who is an atheist, uh, you know, a heretic who's going to go to hell anyways. But but the point is like a Christian nation is even good for atheists to live
Yeah.
in, right? For everyone to live in, everyone can live in it peacefully because it doesn't enforce like, and it's not the Christianity of the past anymore,
Yeah, it's
anyways.
not.
And Christianity even in the past was not like the Islam of today, even, right? Even when Christianity was starting, it wasn't the same as Islam of today.
Christianity
You
when it
know,
was starting was
it's
not even like a state affair. It became a state affair later.
yeah, yeah,
It wasn't like Islam that from its inception was about having a nation with its own laws,
yeah.
and it was like a
It's a
political movement.
political like
Yes,
ideology.
Christianity was not a
You know,
political ideology from the start. It was later that it became political, and then the Roman
hmm.
Catholic Church came to be.
When they went away from the Christian
Yes,
roots,
in fact,
that's when they
when
became
people talk
bad,
about
right?
the reform that happened in Christianity, it was the return to
Yeah.
what it used to be. Well, when Christianity was reforming, that
So
it
the
was.
reform of Islam has to be
Yes,
away
in
from
fact, that's one of the things that I
Reform is
point out. That if Christianity reforming was Christianity returning to its roots, Islam returning to its roots is.
it's ISIS. The reform of Islam is literally ISIS.
Exactly. That is.
I mean, that's what, like I said, I went earlier on Tommy Robinson's podcast, and he was asking, like, what would Muhammad be if he was today? I was like, he would be a
Mhm.
jihadi, you know. He would be a jihadist. He won't be an Islamist. He would be a jihadist because that's what he was in his life. Right? That's why I keep on telling people these are not extremists. They are
They
Muslims.
are.
Right? The moderate Muslims are actually not Muslims. They are munafiqs. They are worse than infidels. They are the people that Allah has said in the Quran that you may be able to forgive them, but I will never forgive
Mm,
them. So God is saying a munafiq, a hypocrite who says they are Muslims but don't follow the edicts of
mm,
Islam, he will never forgive them. He will even forgive the Jews and the Christians and everyone of the book, but he will not forgive the munafiqs, right? So people don't understand this concept. They think like, oh, but it depends how of a person you are. Like in Christianity, people say they're Christians but they don't have to follow it. That's what good Muslims are like. They don't have to follow everything. It's like you don't understand.
How will they
by their
integrate?
by their
How do you integrate?
you can't. And the thing is, by your own religious definitions, you are becoming someone who even Allah will not
mhm,
forgive, right? And you might be a moderate Muslim. There's no guarantee that your kids will be moderate. All they have to do is to read the Quran and the Hadith. This is why I'm fed up of moderates. And like my own family is moderates, right? So moderate Muslims, like my parents are. But I'm fed up of it because I'm like, well, I cannot support any sort of ideology that has bad coding,
mm,
right? We might be able to say, okay, the socialists are nice, the Marxists are nice. They're not like all like that. No, the coding is
mm.
bad, right? At the core, if the coding is bad, it will only have bad
Yes.
outcomes. So let's just stop tolerating bad coding ideas.
And another thing I want to say is because people often ask me that when you criticize Muslims, what do you intend? What do you intend to achieve? Do you want Muslims to be attacked in the streets and stuff like that? And I want to say no. I just want it to be commonplace, for it to be okay, for people to say this idea is bad and not be seen as a bad person and not be seen as someone who is calling
No,
for
no,
violence. You understand? I just want you to.
I don't think any one of us is talking
No.
about Islam critically to make
Nobody does. In
Muslims
fact,
suffer. On the contrary, we want them to be better. We
yeah,
want them
that's
to
Yeah,
that's
have
essentially
yeah.
what we're.
better things, live more healthy, and think
I mean,
about better things.
like I was talking with you Antar before as well. Like my whole point of criticizing Islam is because at the core of it, I want to save the souls of
Mm,
Muslims. because it is corrupting their souls. It's making them into
Mm,
animals, right? It's making them do things that a normal human being would not want to
mm,
do. I'm actually worried about them. I'm actually worried, as sort of like slightly related to Christianity as well, that if there was a chance of a
mm,
God, that they would be condemned for like
mm.
eternity.
Well,
Their souls will be
mm.
corrupt for forever, because they're producing bad results.
Well, you can see here, it's not the Muslims who are worried about the education of those
No,
kids in madrasas. It is
very
people
good
like
point.
you, Christians, ex-Muslims, and people who are not Muslim who are worried about the education of those Muslim
Kids, yeah,
kids. We are not doing this because we hate Muslims. On the contrary, we love them. We want you better. We want you to be better.
yeah, and any person.
Because it's a waste of humanity. Like,
It is, it is.
it is a plague on humanity, but it's a
Mm,
waste. Those 2 billion people that they talk, oh, we have 2 billion, ummah is 2 billion. It's a waste. You're actually a burden on this earth.
mm.
Because you're not contributing to anything.
You're
So
really, and
if tomorrow all 2 billion, the thing is, if tomorrow all 2 billion Muslims were gone, the world would be a better place, and that's the
mm,
truth,
mm-hmm,
right? And that's a
mm-hmm.
fact, which is like, that should make you self-reflect, like,
What about my,
what am I
yes? What is it
believing
about
in?
my
Like,
ideology that is so bad? What is, and
yeah,
sadly for the Islamic mindset or worldview, thinking is not something that they encourage. Sadly, it's something that I've
no,
noticed, that thinking is not something that,
they
because
can't.
I've seen Muslims respond to some of my videos. I've watched some of their response. It's just that I don't want to use my channel to do this back and forth with a Muslim guy. I don't want to do that.
Hmm.
But I've seen them respond to my videos, and the response are so bad that is laughable. And then I go to the comments to say,
It hurts your
yeah, and I go
brain,
to the
man.
comments
Just
and I'm
reading
like,
them hurts your brain.
It leaves you wordless. You don't know even where
yeah,
to
Yeah,
I'm like, how,
start with
even if I was
the
to
critique.
respond to this, where do I even begin from? And then I go to the comments in hope that maybe one of their brothers is noticing that this response is ridiculous. No, I see them say, yeah,
No,
you're right.
no,
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 no.
no, no,
I'm like, wow,
no.
you don't.
But this is how they think they win as well. They exhaust you with their stupidity, and then you're like, okay, I can't deal with
Exactly,
this anymore.
exactly.
And they're like, yes, because I
Yeah,
won.
look at
See,
him,
I
he's
won because
running
I was
away.
right.
He's running away.
It's like, okay, you want to win, please win. But like, I want to keep my sanity. So,
It's like they just
yeah,
drown you with bad arguments that you're like, okay, you know what? Just,
yeah.
yeah, I agree with you. You know what? You're right. Like,
And this was the reason when I was growing up why I loved British more and
mm,
more, and why I started, even when I was like, there was no connection of Britain
mm,
with me when I was growing up in Kuwait in the Middle
mm,
East. Like, okay, some of my teachers were British and stuff, and I had British media and like literature
mm,
and stuff. But this is the reason, because the more I read about them, I was like, these are the kind of people I would like to
true.
live amongst. These are the kind of people that I would like to talk with. These are the kind of people that seems like my people. I would like them to be my people, right? So even when I came over here and I became British and stuff like that, even when there are people that, like, you would hate the British in Nigeria and
Mm.
stuff, that's also a sense of pride for me as British viewers, because like, see, because we were on them and they hate us because we colonized them. Right? So you can still take
Like,
some, but it's understandable. You can be like, okay, it's
mm,
understandable. We screwed them
mm,
over, so we did that. It
mm.
happened. But this is what everyone was doing. They should be thankful that Genghis Khan did not come to Nigeria, because that would have been a bit too bloody over there.
It was how
You
the
know what
world
I mean?
worked. Back then, if you're weak, you get conquered. If you're strong, you could do the conquering. It's how the world, even to date, I feel it's still how the world works. It may not be working directly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
even
it may not be
now.
so.
People don't understand
It may not be
power.
so directly, but I mean, when you look around in Nigeria, you see the presence of Chinese companies. What do you think is happening?
Mm,
What exactly do you think
mm.
is happening?
They're
They are colonizing
colonizing.
you.
They're
They are doing it
colonizing
again.
Africa.
It's just that now they're not killing people. They're not their presence is, they are doing it economically. It's just how the world is.
Hmm.
If you are not strong, you will be at the bottom. If you are strong, you'll be at the top. And that is why I hope, when I look at Nigeria, I'm like, I just hope we'll one day realize what is going on and discover that you cannot guilt people into not taking advantage of you. I think that's what the world believes now.
Yeah,
That if we can guilt trip them and be
yeah.
like, look at what you are doing is bad. That's not how it works. You don't guilt.
That has never
It never
worked.
worked at all.
And it's actually amazing to me that it is worked to that extent within the West, where the people are taking that on board and stuff, which is why I come back to that point that it is the liberal attitudes that
The,
are
the liberal
allowing this
mindset
to
is just
happen,
making people
right?
mentally weak. And then those who are, I won't call them
Yeah.
mentally strong, but are just manipulative and now taking advantage of that mental weakness. Because the way I see like the young people, especially those ones in colleges who are doing those projects, I see them as people who, it's undeniable. These people are mentally not strong. They are not sharp. And it's not because of IQ or anything, it's
Hmm.
just because of how their education system has conditioned them. You know, it's kind of like an
Yeah.
artificial
Dulled them
conditioning to
down
make
and
them
stuff.
believe that you see the world from a very narrow landscape.
Yeah.
So Muslims just
I mean, this is why as well. Like when people were saying about the colonialism and all that shit as well, I was like, well, like as someone who's somewhat associated with Britain now, or native British people, you should be extremely
proud
proud.
of it.
It's a small bloody island.
It took
Like
over
it
the
is
world.
so small. It had so less people. It took over the
And
entire
you think
world.
it's the
Like,
same thing I tell
can you
people.
imagine that? And no country has ever done
I
that.
tell
Like,
people,
it's so
you say
small.
if you think the British we are lucky, try it. If you think oh they were just lucky, try it.
Yeah,
You think it's easy to
try
colonize?
it.
Try it. Try it. And see if you will be
And
that
not
same
just
person.
colonized. Like they colonized. They took over administrations. They built, made
They
new
develop, they
administrations.
try to make
They put in
places
their
better.
laws. They learned their languages. Right. This is before Duolingo, right? Before any app.
They
They
even
learned their
through
languages and they learned the history. They preserve the archaeology and they preserve the history of. Nobody has done that
the people always talk about how
before.
the British Museum came and took artifacts from let's say
They
Nigeria, for
saved
example. I'm
them.
like, do you know some of these so-called artifacts? The British dug it up from wherever we buried them. Are you aware?
Yeah.
You say, oh, they came to this place and even we did not value those things. They were the ones that saw it and said, this is something historic that should be valued, that should be preserved. We were like, oh, no, this is just an idol. You can break it. Actually, you can break it. It's fine. You know, and they were like, no, you don't break this, you preserve it. And now we are like, give it to us back, give it to us back. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah,
If we give it to you back, we
you
destroy
destroy
it.
exactly, you destroy it because you've never valued distance. And that's one thing that I too I admire like British custom, the way they were able to expand and what made them glorious. I really admire it. People, writers that I appreciate, that I read, like C.S. Lewis, G.K. Chesterton. I love
Hmm.
G.K. Chesterton very much. Like these are the kind of people I read.
Yeah.
I have few African authors that in fact, the only African author that I read is Chino Achebe. I don't know if you guys know the guy. He wrote one famous book like that
No.
called Things Fall Apart. That's the only African author that I read.
Hmm.
Every other author I read are like Western authors, European authors, and American authors because I feel these people are good people who are articulate. They really think about things. You know,
Hmm.
I've spoken to so many Nigerians, and I will say this about Nigerians, which is one thing that make Europeans, in my opinion, better, culturally superior, is that the average
Hmm.
European is curious. Nigerians are not curious. I have conversations with them and I'm like, these things, I will be asking them certain questions and they'll be like, why are you asking all these questions? I'm like, don't you sit down and these thoughts don't just cross your mind? Like, why do things happen like this? Why is this like this? But you see the Western mind. That is why they traveled around the world. They want to see everything. They're like, let us
Hmm.
see what is on the other
You're
side.
curious. You wanted to
Exactly. They want
explore.
to explore.
Yeah.
But the average Nigerian is like, nah, the world is how I'm seeing it. Just ask no questions. And then you are asking,
It's all the
yeah, it's
same.
just
I don't know.
what are you looking for there? It's fine. Nothing is there. Just stay here.
But Frank, we used to admire civilizations, right? This is the reason why in Britain people read about the Roman Empire. They read about the Greek Empire, the Greek philosophy and
Mhm,
stuff, the Hindu philosophy, because there used to be this thing that you admire the person, even though they were against
mhm,
you, even though like the Romans were actually on Britain and they had to become
mhm,
independent from them, but they admired
mhm.
them because of what they achieved and stuff and what they can
From
learn
them.
from them, so they can take on board and they can become better. That used to be the whole point, and that wasn't just in West. It used to be in the East as well. It used to be like the Persian were like that as well, and all the other civilization around
Mm,
them were like that as well. The Chinese have been like
mm,
that. The Japanese from way
mm,
before, they were like, the Japanese didn't even have their own
mm,
language. That's why they had to take the Chinese
mm,
alphabets, because when they started trading. When they started trading, they had to make
mm,
records, and they were like, well, we can't take records because we only speak our languages, we don't write
mm,
our language. So they took their letters,
mm.
right? Now there's a huge war between Japan and China, but there's appreciation of your enemies in that way as well, because you admire and you
And that is
but
what I think Africa
yeah,
needs to like. We need to learn to admire our enemies and learn
and
something.
then adapt to what it means to be African.
Even I'm not even much bothered about what it means to be African because I feel like the African identity can be anything anybody makes it out to be. Sorry, I'm not that conservative when it comes to
It's not a singular
there
identity
is
anyways. It
it
can't be a
can't.
singular.
That's why when people are like, "This is the true African
Mm,
identity," I'm like, "Shut up!" The only person who will ever say that is somebody who is not from Africa. There is, in my view, I'm like, there is an Igbo identity. I'm an Igbo person, right? There's an Igbo identity. And
yeah,
Igbos are just a
yeah.
very small tribe in Nigeria. There is an Igbo.
It's like saying Asian identity. Which
Which
country are you
exactly? So I'm
Like,
meaning?
like, don't
Yeah.
say that. There's no such thing as an. What does it mean to be?
they probably listen to Lion King and they think, oh yeah, I know about African identity.
Like watch Aladdin and oh, I know how
Oh, I
Islam.
know all about Arabs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's really but and modern Nigerians or African societies are adopting a modern identity. And I think that can be anything for
Mm,
anyone. But I just believe that Africans as a whole should just learn to copy things that work. Things that have worked in the past,
mm.
copy,
Take the
take the
good
good things.
things.
And you don't have to like the people. You understand? You can even take it and
Mm,
be like, we are the ones who created it. Fine, just take it.
yeah,
Just take it. Just take it. If it's nice, it's nice. And I am seeing even
yeah. And this is how the British actually
became moody.
became
Yes,
good, because they were
people
good
always
at
say this that
absorbing.
white supremacy is they are thieves. They steal other people's culture. And I'm like, yeah, you can also do the same thing.
Absorb.
Nobody's stopping you. Those cultures don't have like security guards. They don't have like people that
Copyrighted.
are
Copyright. Only our civilization says that you can't kill people. Copyright. Everyone else go ahead and kill
you can
people.
How dare you wear pants?
Yeah, we just
you shouldn't.
our
You should.
pants. We putting tax on the whole world for wearing pants.
No more pants for you.
Yeah.
Pant
You know,
privilege is taken away.
so and also we should Africa as a continent should just be open to be able to show the world what Islam has done to Africa, especially. That's just one thing that I
Yeah.
hope I'll be able to do with my channel. Beyond just like exposing what it is doing in the West, also use Africa as an example because there are a lot of examples in Africa. Do you know that in Kenya, I think it's in Kenya, but one of those East African countries, somebody I saw this in Jihad Watch by Robert Spencer. So a Muslim guy poisoned the mother because she converted to Christianity.
That's the thing. Like, it makes people like it corrupts your soul enough that you would
Your
poison
own
your own
mother for
mother.
that. Just as this and
Can
this
you
happens
imagine that?
often, like in Nigeria too, when somebody like is in the north and you convert because they happen quite often.
But
They
that's
have to
the honor killing and stuff that happen in Pakistan and those places as well, right? They're killing their own daughters, brothers killing their own sisters, killing them on sisters.
honor killing,
It's
right?
it's
Which
yeah,
is bad. Like once somebody converts in the north, you have to run to the south because if you remain in the north, you're going. There's even there's
yeah.
one in the news in Nigeria. So the guy had to run. He went into hiding. His car was burnt. They were guarding his house, like waiting to see if he will arrive so that they can attack him. He had to go into hiding. I'm very sure he must have run out of the north. Even the Christian Association in Nigeria had to come to the guy's aid to kind of protect him from people who were like ready to kill him because they were already accusing him of blasphemy. And I was like, I thought the crime is called
Mhm.
apostasy, but then I realized that blasphemy and apostasy, I mean, what's the difference?
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, I personally, I stopped talking about Islam a long time back, and it's a good point to end our conversation as well. Like,
Yeah.
cause been almost 2 hours as well. But it's like I myself stopped talking about Islam a long time ago, because I left it like 16, 18 years
Mm,
ago. Islam, and I was like, and I went through a whole process, 6 years of going into it and understanding everything, and then saying, okay, no, this is shit, so let's move on. So I became indifferent to it,
mm,
right? And I was like, it's not for me.
mm,
My podcast channel, like, it's a small, my small podcast, it used to be just about history and
mm,
mythology. That's what I like talking about, like history things from here or there. But I started talking about Islam, because I personally know it very deeply. I have a lot of knowledge about the religion because I was very much a religious
Mm.
person in that space. And just that people need to be made
Mm.
aware. They'll come kicking and screaming. They will come to the realization that Islam is not the Islamist, it's not the extremist. They will come to the realization that it is
Mm.
Islam. It is Islam and needs to be rejected, and all the mosques need to be shut
Mm.
down in the West, and it has to be
Mm.
done. They will. That's what I'm saying. They will come kicking and screaming, but they will come to this realization because there is no
Mm.
coexistence with these people, with the people who have this
Mm.
ideologies. There's no coexistence with it, because it is like Sauron, right? It does not share power. It wants to conquer everyone. But yeah, I mean, this is why I love your channel as
Mm.
well, because like your channel is huge.
I urge
So
everybody to just go follow Frank. Just go on
yeah,
YouTube,
go
on
on.
X, on
Yeah.
Twitter. Everybody just go follow him.
And it's so informative, it's so quick and informative sort of thing people can digest really
Mm.
quickly, especially in this era where kids are can't like focus for more than a minute. So but it's good because it's so big, and people are absorbing this information, and it will help
Mm.
open their eyes. But all I will say is, like, I have gotten frustrated myself as well recently, that I just wanted to like give up, like whatever, I'm just gonna go in some island and just live over there away from people. But just that people like saying it to myself, don't give up, because it will take a
Mm.
while. It's taken a while. It's taken a lot of years for this Islamist ideology to come into our civilizations. It's going to take a while to undo
Mm.
this as well.
I
So, but
think I think YouTube space and social media needs more African voices overall.
mm,
Mm.
There is not a lot of like
yeah,
African creators that reach us, that we can actually
yeah,
like
Mm.
hear and hear your opinions, especially Islam critical
Mm.
ones. And I really like that Frank has broken into the Islam space of the YouTube, and knows about like apostate prophet and David Wood and all
mm,
of this. And I think Frank should be one of those people that is actually on top of that
mm,
conversation, because he has very good points. He's brutal with his points. Nobody, like, you can't really argue against him, because it is just, it's true, it's the truth what he
Yeah.
says. I
yeah.
urge everybody to just go follow him. I think you're nearly hitting
Yeah, I'm nearly there.
400,000 followers on,
I'm nearly there.
Yeah,
nearly there, and that is a huge
send
amount of
send
subscribers.
2 or 3 followers my way as well.
You should definitely have like millions on YouTube, and you should definitely have tens of thousands of followers on Twitter. So I urge everybody to just
But he
go
will,
and
he
follow him.
will. Inshallah, he will.
Inshallah, everybody go and follow Frank.
Okay, thank
Thank
you
you
for
very
watching,
much,
Yeah.
Frank.
everyone, and thank you for being over here, and thank you to everyone for watching. Yeah, see you again
All right.
next time.